Welcome to Mirage. My name is Bryan Aiello. Today joining me is Brent Harris, and today we're going to be discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Did you know that there were 20 movies out that were connected through a similar intellectual property?
Oh, of course. Comics are what taught many of us to read. I'm one of those people who, picked up a funny book and, started making my own stories with the pictures, and then kind of slowly but surely pieced together what was happening. And before I knew it, I was reading comics, and they were my entryway to books and to a larger world.
What was your first comic book?
My first comic book, because I was more into dinosaurs as a kid than superheroes. But my very first comic book I saw had Stegron, the dinosaur man, and Spider-Man, and a guy named the Black Panther, which I know nobody has ever heard of Black Panther. We're teaming up to defeat Stegron, the dinosaur man, and I just thought that was really, really cool. Because even everybody knows who Spider-Man was. I didn't know who Black Panther was. I was 8 or whenever that comic came out. But that quickly escalated, and of course I knew everything about everybody. Just a few months later, because I had to have them all. And who knew you could have dinosaurs in a comic book?
That's pretty cool. And I mean, when was this when you were 8 years old? What year was it?
Oh, this would have been. I should have dug out the issue because I actually still have that comic.
No
I think.
way.
I have a lot of my old comics from then, but they're all trashed because I read them over and over and over again. They're not worth anything except for sentimental value to me. But I should have brought it out. I could have told you exactly when, but probably would have been around 1998, 1989.
Oh, really? You were 8 years old then?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're
Yeah, I'm
younger than I
old.
thought you were.
Oh,
You're younger than I
okay. I
thought.
figured
I
I
was
was
8 years
younger.
old in 1984.
No, see, I'm kind of envious with people like your age group. You're just old enough to remember seeing Star Wars in the theater,
Yeah, I
and
did not
I
see
was
Star
not
Wars
even
in
old
the
enough.
theater. I saw Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I potentially saw Star Wars. My dad was a big time science fiction geek growing up.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah.
remember one of my first memories is getting a Hoth toy, one of the snow things, like right
Oh
when
yeah, the
Empire
Snow
Straight Back
Speeder.
was coming out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
that's
guess that was
cool.
my thing. So you really don't have any excuse. The 90s, everything was already full swing. Everybody had a horrible name
Yeah,
like Spider-Man or what
yeah.
was the dinosaur dude's name? Stegron?
Stegron, Stegron, the dinosaur man. Yep.
How
It was
is that an original concept
actually it is, and
back
then
in the day, or like they come out
Todd
in the 90s or
McFarlane kind
something?
of stole that guy's character and kind of give it to the Lizard. And they kind of use that in. See, the Stegron's big thing is he wants to devolve everybody back into dinosaurs, and they kind of did that. If you remember in the Amazing Spider-Man with the Lizard, he was trying to change people into lizards. So I was kind of a little upset that the Lizard stole Stegron's shtick. That was sad for me, but
Yeah, 8 years old, late 90s. That was a weird time to be a
oh,
comic book fan.
late '80s.
Oh, late 80s.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
still, I mean, that was an interesting time to
'80s.
be a comic book fan. I think the 80s things were falling
But
apart for comic books.
1990, the end of the 1990s is when everything was starting to fall apart for the comic books. That's when
Oh, yeah.
Marvel had to sell a lot of their properties over to Sony and Fox. That's when you got the stupid chrome cover variants and the things that you had to interconnect the covers. And yeah, that's they you had some successes in comic books, and so they just kind of doubled it down on it and tripled down on it, and then it just kind of got overinflated, and
Hmm.
then nobody wanted anything because it's ridiculous.
And
And
this
do
is
you
in the
remember
90s.
the chrome covers, the hologram covers and such they had in the late
No,
'90s?
I didn't read comic books when I was a young kid, unfortunately. Maybe in the 90s I did, but me and my brother would dig out stuff from the discount boxes. We'd flip through in the
Yeah, oh,
front
yeah,
covers and just grab whatever
absolutely.
we wanted
Oh, I
from the
love discount
boxes.
boxes. I really wish they would kind of bring that concept back because, oh man, you just get piles, handfuls of comics for a couple of bucks. You're set. I mean, as a 10, 12-year-old kid, all you needed was a can of cherry Coke and some comic books and you know, I like Snicker bars, but to each their own for candy bar, and then
I
the
didn't
candy,
have
and that was it. That was your
yeah,
life.
right. My
And
brother loved them. My brother loved comic books when I was a kid. I like books, right? I loved
oh
books.
yeah,
I loved having a book on me more than I did anything else. And comic books just
yeah,
were not substantial enough for me. You'd read them in like 10 minutes, you were done,
I get that.
right?
I totally get that. They're like the Twitter of the 1980s and 90s. They
Yeah,
really
right.
were. They were just like bite sized,
Insubstantial.
small little bits of information. Hmm.
But I wish I had
But see, I like
gotten into it. I wish I had. I wish I had said, I don't care. Here's $1. I mean, they were cheap then too, right? I mean, gotten into it
they
and
were
explored a little
so
bit more
cheap.
because I mean, there was obviously magic in those waters.
Well, full disclosure, I know we're on talking about comics and such like that. I have to go ahead and say on the air that I don't actually collect or buy comics anymore because they're like $4 an issue, three to
four
four
dollars
to
an
five
issue.
bucks.
Yeah, they're expensive. And again, they
Yeah,
still only last for like 10 minutes. I mean, you can go through panel by
is
panel and like stare at the art
yeah,
and decipher it or whatever, but I've already done that kind of reading it. Ready for something
exactly.
new. I don't want to wait a month.
Yeah,
That was what always used to drive me crazy about comic books. And just recently I got
yeah,
back into, Image has what is it? The Walking Dead, and they have a few other interesting ideas. In fact, as a
mhm.
concept, they're fascinating because I think the artists come on and they own their books still. You know what I mean? They have
Yes,
the
Image is
distribution, but they bring in artists and
absolutely
concept people and they make their own books under the Image banner.
yes. Oh yeah, and there's some really good independent comic books. Well, I wouldn't really even call Image independent anymore. They're just the non-big two. I do collect
The
a few of
non-big
those.
too,
I
yeah,
have
man. That's an apt
yeah,
description, isn't it?
I
Because
have
you have the too big too, and
yeah,
that's basically everybody else is shadowed by them. There's no comparison, is there?
yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's some good stuff. In fact, let me go ahead and give a shout out to my friends over at Mad Robot Comics out in the UK. They are producing some amazing independent stuff. Uh, uh, um, Cadavers is great if you want to take a look at it. Kickstarter is where you can get their stuff. I just wanted to give them a shout out because I know they work incredibly hard to get themselves out there. So yeah, I do try to kind of keep my ear to some of the independent stuff going around because there's a lot of good ideas, a lot of good thought that hopefully will be picked up and scooped up by the masses.
Yeah, I had a really great opportunity to speak with Gabrielle Hardman, who is doing not only he has a book for Image right now that's coming out, but he also did a book independently called Kinski. And if you've never read it or seen it, highly recommend it. I mean, this guy has painted,
Awesome.
these panels to the point where, you're like stressing out with his main character. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen next, and he's doing the dumbest things. It's a great book. I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat thinking like when I was watching Breaking Bad, and the character's about to do something
Yes.
incredibly, um, risky. It's like, my God, skin just crawling. I love that stuff, man. Comic books are definitely going in an interesting place in our culture that wasn't there before. I guess it was. Maybe it was because I remember in the mid '80s or the early '80s. I mean, I know we're supposed to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but what is it? The middle of the '80s when Watchmen came out.
Yeah, that would have been Alan Moore. That was Vertigo, I believe. I could be
DC.
wrong on that.
I think it's DC.
Well, okay, I thought DC bought Vertigo, but
Oh, maybe you're right.
um,
There is like an interesting little thing there, isn't it? But I mean, that's what I mean. That's
No,
what
I
we're kind
see
of
that.
talking about, right? Like these runs of very interesting concepts and ideas. And when you
Yeah.
get into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have to acknowledge or, tip your hat to the Avengers, which is kind of what a team up comic book situation, right?
Well, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, when you only have a dollar or two, you kind of want the team up books because you want all your favorite characters in one book. But what Marvel did, and I don't think they get enough credit for doing this, is that uh, Marvel's kind of sort of been under one umbrella, one universe. I mean, it's totally possible to be. I'm kind of paraphrasing from somebody else here. It's totally possible to buy a Spider-Man comic book and then just see like the silhouette of Thor flying in the background in the New
Right.
York cityscape. I mean, they've always been sort of connected on that level. Um, DC does it too, obviously, but Marvel, they had, unless somebody has evidence to the contrary, I think Marvel really had their hand in the pot first when it
I
comes
mean,
to just having a universe.
yeah, in 2006, no, 2008,
8
when Iron Man came
Iron
out,
Man. Hmm.
obviously you're thinking to yourself, because I mean, if you're an 80s kid, in the 90s, you had Captain America that ruined
Yeah.
comic book movies, right? You had The Punisher coming
Oh
out and ruining
my
comic
gosh.
book movies. I mean, you had
Yeah.
movies ruining
Oh
comic book movies that you saw
yes.
a comic book
Oh,
movie and you're like,
absolutely.
no, dude, I'm not giving you my money, waste it. But in like 2008,
Hmm.
Iron Man
Yeah.
came out, and it was good. It was great. And I was in Italy watching it for no other reason besides
Hmm.
I've heard it was fantastic. And it was, right? I mean, this was the first installment of what would end up being what we consider this Marvel Cinematic Universe, right?
Uh, it is cornerstone. It is the linchpin. If Iron Man doesn't work, nothing was going to work on top of that, and Marvel knew that going in,
Yeah.
which is odd because they started filming without a script. You
Filming with a
think you
guy
would
who,
think that
when they started filming with Robert Downey Jr., who
knowing
was a
how
complete
important it was.
failure, right? I mean, he wasn't going to make any money for them. He was,
No, actually, casting Robert Downey Jr. probably was a very risky move back then, but
right?
it was a
Yeah.
stroke of brilliance because it really was, and I don't think back in 2008 people were talking about it, but people aren't talking about it now because
No.
10 years of famous Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
But I mean, he had hit bottom. I mean, he was Tony Stark. He had basically been there, done that, and I think that really helped inform the character of Tony Stark and why the two are kind of synonymous now, because it is a comeback story for both Iron Man and Marvel
Yeah.
and Robert Downey.
Maybe even Disney. I don't know. Maybe not Disney. At this point,
Not
I don't
yet.
even think Disney owned Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not
No.
entirely certain
Well,
about that.
they were looking at it. They were going,
Who
this
produced?
might be good.
Yeah, the $500 million is what Iron Man made in the box office at a hundred
Yeah,
and
which
forty
is like
million dollar
huge.
budget.
Like I think Ant Man and the Wasp are projected to do over $500 million, and now I mean
And
500 million is
they're a
nothing,
B team, aren't
nothing
they?
back
They're
then.
not even like the real deal. They're like
Yeah.
the backup team kind of in a way to get us through. And you know what? It was distributed by Paramount Pictures, and Marvel Studios and Fairview Entertainment are the ones who produced it. And if I remember correctly, Marvel
Yes.
Studios was standalone. I mean, they were an
Yes.
independent movie theater at that particular point in time. They weren't
They
even
they
Disney.
didn't have a distributor. Yeah, they had to go get funding from other companies. I mean, they took a huge risk, but obviously, it paid off.
I mean, now, I mean, jumping ahead 10 years, I mean, that was interesting. You pointing out that it's 10 years, like, no, that's too short amount of time ago, right? 10 years ago is nothing for what
Yeah,
we've been given by Marvel Studios over the last 10 years. It's kind of incredible, honestly. And they didn't do it
it really was.
altruistically, did they? They did it because they were making tons of money and people wanted this stuff.
Well, I think I actually, you're obviously right. I mean, you got to make the money, you got to make bottom line. But the thing that really stood out to me was that you have fans of the material, people who are very passionate about the characters and the stories that were already told. Making the films, and it shows. Passion shows in filmmaking. James Cameron is a tremendous talent in film, and you can tell how passionate he is, how detail oriented he is in his films, and his films all make a lot of money. So I mean, all Marvel did was kind of take that James Cameron passion and find those people who are going to go through and say, no, that detail is not right. Let's do this. If we're going to do this, do it right.
Is that was that just a random suggestion or example, or is there a reason that you mentioned James Cameron in connection to the MCU? Did they go after him specifically to model
Well, I
their
know that
their studio on what he was doing?
I think there's some. I'm basing this off of James Cameron wanting to direct a Spider-Man movie for Marvel in the 90s. The plans for were underway probably in the late 90s, but then Marvel started going bankrupt, and obviously that has to be scrapped. But I mean, they wanted James Cameron for a Spider-Man movie. And in fact, if anybody remembers, he was going to cast Leonardo DiCaprio in the role of Peter Parker,
I
which
can't see
I
it.
don't
That would
think would
ruin
work.
it. I think Tobey Maguire
I
was the
don't. I
wrong
don't. I
choice.
don't. I don't. Yeah, yeah. But then again, um, James Cameron is a good filmmaker, and I think that maybe something that they had in conversation sparked the whole idea of, what, if we're going to go ahead and do this, we need to do it with somebody like James Cameron who can just really pour over the material and be passionate about it.
So you want to count Sam Raimi's original vision of Spider-Man as part of the MCU?
Unfortunately, no. But because for one thing, that's Sony and not really associated with Marvel at
At
all.
all,
But
yeah.
I mean, but
Well, I mean,
you
actually,
have
what
to
do
give
they
credit.
do it? They have the MCU logo, don't they?
Yeah. But if you noticed, it's up on top. It always goes like even with Deadpool. They have the Marvel logo, but it's always in association with Marvel. Uh, uh, and some of the movies, like some of the X-Men movies, I don't even know if they're allowed to flash the Marvel logo.
Really?
Uh,
Interesting.
well, yeah, this X-Men Apocalypse movie, not Apocalypse, Days. Oh my gosh, the Dark Phoenix Saga, Part Two, redo, Electric Boogaloo that they're going to be doing. I don't know if Marvel wants to have anything to do with that, and they
Well,
may they
are
might
they
just
going
say,
to do that
in
anymore?
association with
Because it's going to be Disney that owns
Alan Smithy.
Fox, right? I mean,
Can
Disney's
you
going to
believe
own
that they're still making those X-Men movies?
what?
Fox Fox Studios is still making those garbage X-Men movies.
Yeah, they
So,
do make them,
it
and they're
kills
not
me.
they're not going to make them anymore, as far as I know.
No,
And I
they're
think
not.
that the SEC just approved it, or the Department of Justice just approved it,
Yep,
the merger between
yep.
Fox and Disney, which a
I
lot
do
of people
hope
are
so.
upset about, right? Because it kind of gives them more superheroes to play with and put into their stable
Yeah,
of
it gives, in a roundabout way. You can't just when you can't win them, beat them, you just join them, and by joining them, buying them out, and just taking them back anyway.
Do you think it was really
It's
ever a
bad.
do you think it was ever a
What's that?
do you think it was ever really a competition?
Oh yeah, a little bit. I mean, Comcast did, up their bid and give Disney some sweat, but at the same time, it is bad because you're getting this kind of global media powerhouse that has their
Yeah.
one. I mean, and eventually Disney and Marvel and some of the other Star Wars. Well, we're already seeing it with Star Wars. You're seeing a decline in the quality of the film. of
I
the
don't know how
films
that works, man,
outside of the
honestly, because I mean, you are dealing with an intellectual property, right? And you
yeah
own, I mean, what
yeah.
makes one intellectual property better than all the other ones? I mean, you're not collecting all the intellectual properties, you're not collecting all the movie studios. So you're not really a monopoly, are you? But you have been smart in terms of your IP collection,
I
maybe.
mean, that's
Not sure.
the good the flip side. That's good. I mean, I did Marvel get the X Men back. Um, I would like to see an actual X Men movie that's good that doesn't rely on Hugh Jackman carrying the weight of the movie.
It's very true. They did have
Um,
that young X-Men movie though, a few years ago. I guess they're still kind of in that. They were in that track, right? The young X-Men.
I don't actually know where they're going to go with that. I think, yeah, I actually don't have an opinion on that. Are you talking about the TV series or the?
No, they had
Oh,
the
oh,
Jennifer Lawrence X-Men
got it.
movies.
Yeah, I know. It won't really be X Men movies. It won't be an X Men movie until we see get younger actors to play some of the roles.
Yeah,
But
they just
it
did
won't
that.
be X Men until it's an X Men movie.
I don't
I
know,
don't know
man.
if that
That's
makes
interesting because
sense.
the X-Men. I mean, I wonder what's going to happen when Marvel gets their hands on it for the first time. Obviously, all that stuff is gone, and you do have a Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman doing Logan, and that is his role. You know what I mean? You can't
yeah,
take it away from him. Tobey Maguire was
yeah,
Spider-Man, but it wasn't really his
yeah.
role. And this guy Tom Holland that came in and kind of took it over, I feel like he did a really good job with it and took it for himself.
Tom Holland is the Spider Man we deserve.
Right? And here you go. This
He's
is the best
great.
way to look at it.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, I love Tobey Maguire, and I love the passion that Andrew Garfield had. I think he's a great actor. He did a great job with the material he had, but he's too old for Spider Man. He's too he's a great mature Spider Man. For a Spider Man that's been out for 10, 15 years or so. Maybe in his prime, Andrew Garfield would have nailed it, but Spider-Man's always been about this nerdy, geeky high schooler who's just kind of young, but
Having
has
a hard
this
time balancing,
awesome
right?
amount of power.
Having a hard
Hmm.
time doing the thing. I mean, he's
Hmm.
got his friends, he's got his school, he's got his Aunt May, and he's got a superhero fighting, crime fighting thing happening at night. And his thing was always trying to
Exactly.
balancing it all and doing it all and winning it all and constantly kind of failing, right? Wasn't that his thing in the very beginning? If you read the
Exactly.
1960s,
He's the constant underdog,
right?
and he's always going up against people who are just so out who surpass him, and yet he always seems to manage it. Because he's a hero, and I think Holland kind of knows that. You saw it a little bit in the few movies he's been in. He's just outside of his weight class, but he still does everything a Spider-Man can.
Yeah. So it's Spider-Man,
I'm,
it's the X-Men.
I love how blows in against Thanos. That was just awesome. I mean, he's totally outmatched, but he still managed to just surprise Thanos and hit him a couple of times. And not that it did anything to him, but just the fact that he was out there and he was able to do that was pretty cool, and it was totally from the comics.
Right, but Spider-Man's no weakling. I mean, in terms of like his abilities, he's got like 100-ton press and this reflexes of this, that, and the other thing. I mean, he's able to stick it on and do more than just like an immortal would be able to. But I mean, as far as the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I mean, you didn't really have a lot. It started with Incredible Hulk, it went to X-Men, it went to Spider-Man, and then this thing started with Iron Man.
Yeah,
Where
that is the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because all the Incredible Hulk is Universal. That didn't really have anything to do with anything in Spider
the
Man
Ang
with
Lee version,
Sony.
right?
The Ang Lee, yeah, the Ang Lee,
Yeah.
which I actually admire the cinematography. I think it was very well shot. I didn't like the actual storyline. We all kind of panned it, but
Man, at least they let him be Bruce though
this
this time, right? At least they didn't take
what's
Bruce
that?
away from Banner.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I mean, when they did the TV series in the 80s, they said Bruce was too much of a gay name, and they they wouldn't let Marvel keep the name Bruce Banner. They had to make him somebody else.
yeah, David.
David Banner,
Banner, I
yeah.
believe. Yeah, yeah,
So funny to me. It is so funny to me that
yeah.
they couldn't even have the guy's name. They were that homophobic in the 80s. They couldn't even have the name.
Yeah, Bruce is not a tough guy's name apparently. I heard it was also because of the alliteration. They didn't want the BB, the Bruce Banner, but I've also heard
Oh,
of
I hadn't heard that.
the homophonic.
That actually makes more sense.
Why?
They want the alliteration. Bruce is not a gay name. I don't think at that point in time. I don't know
It's not.
if it is even today.
It's not. I don't think there is any. I mean, there's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down.
Right.
Actually, might
Gay
be a
names
good
versus
topic.
non-gay names. I mean, it's like a parent saying you're going to be gay because I give you a gay name. No, it doesn't exist, does it? All it is
If that
homophobia.
was the case, yeah, that was the case, then it would be interesting. I might name
Right?
my
You set your kid down a road of
my son
homosexuality
after
with
that.
her name. Not cool, mom.
What's
Not
that?
cool, dad. But
Yeah, well, uh,
okay.
I don't want premature grandchildren. So I'm totally happy if both my kids are come. They're like we're gay. I'm like yes, awesome. That way you can adopt whenever you're ready to have kids. I'm happy.
I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And that I hope in the age I don't know, retrospectively it always seems like we're worse off than we are, but I personally look back in the 80s and go, "My God, they seem to be having a good time, right?" Homosexual communities or whatever. Bruce Banner,
80, 80s was pretty bad.
yeah.
But we made progress. In unfortunately, in spite of the progress we made, we're still. Why I don't know why I'm saying we. But we
Humanity, man. You're a
still
part of
have
the
a
team.
long way to go.
You're part of
Humanity,
the team.
humanity.
But I mean, that's not part of the MCU. And Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk is not really even part of the MCU, though I think they're trying to give
Nope.
him credit retrospectively. The second one, though, with
John Hurt and Edward Norton.
yeah, that one is part of the MCU. It came out after 2008.
It is. It is, and it bombed. And I think Marvel is probably really upset that their second entry to the whole universe is just flatline. But to be honest, it is really difficult to make a Hulk movie because it's very hard to just like with Superman to make Hulk the underdog and to make you be able to relate to the Hulk.
Yeah, I mean, Ang Lee had an interesting concept, right? Every time the Hulk got angrier, he got bigger and more powerful,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
it just
yeah. And
doesn't really shape for a very good narrative because you don't really feel like that character is
you don't
vulnerable.
feel exactly. Oh, Hulk got hit again. Oh no. Oh, he just got stronger.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Hulk has to, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to say that there aren't good Hulk storylines. I mean, there's some fantastic Hulk storylines in the comics, of course. But in my opinion, Hulk does work better as a side character, where the focus is
yeah.
not necessarily
In
on
terms of
him,
this,
but
right? I
he's
mean,
still.
in the
What's
MCU,
that?
he's the Hulk character has really done a good job of being kind of the comic relief for 4 films or 3 films actually,
Yeah,
with
yeah. I
the
mean,
fourth being
it's.
the Thor Ragnarok, which was really fantastic.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think they did really good by giving Hulk, room to grow, giving him a storyline, giving him character arc, playing with the character, not making it where well Hulk is just this two dimensional strong guy who you turn to for the Hulk whenever things go bad, and then he's like the MacGuffin.
Yeah,
Um,
find the Hulk.
so yeah,
What
yeah,
and
yeah.
I did not read a lot of Hulk comic books growing up. He was not my character, unfortunately. Spider-Man was. When I got comic books, that was the only character for me was Spider-Man. But was
Oh
they
yeah.
obviously had arcs for the Incredible Hulk? How'd they make him vulnerable? It was all about Bruce Banner, wasn't it? It was all about.
Well, there's a lot of character growth for Bruce, having to come to terms with his anger and his Hulk issues and such. But when I in if in the late '80s, early '90s, Hulk spent a lot of his time not being the Hulk. He was either in outer space, if I recall, or he was Bruce Banner. He was Hulk with Bruce Banner's intellect. And then there was one period of time that Hulk was just kind of walking around carrying a big gun. And I can't remember exactly the run, but that was probably the Hulk's low point. I mean,
Uh,
Hulk comics in the late '80s, I kind of shied away from too because it was just either out in space or doing non-Hulk things. It was kind of bizarre.
so I guess they were running up with the same problem then. How do you make Hulk
Yeah, I mean, it's
vulnerable?
hard to write stories for a character that is invincible. I mean, they had to kill Superman in the '90s to make him more interesting. They had, and then make him a little bit weaker when he came back. But
I always felt like
again,
Superman's
have
greatest skill was in its investigative journalism. And if you're going to make
hmm
a Superman movie, you really can't forget about the fact that he's an investigative journalist. So that's how you build it,
yep.
right? You build it by his desire to investigate the truth of a matter. And lo and behold, he has to use his Superman powers to beat the day, right? Lois and Clark, that movie when we were kids, do you remember it? Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of
Oh,
Superman.
yeah,
Did you
yeah. The
watch that?
TV series. I have a
Yeah.
soft spot in my heart. It was campy. It was bad. But at the same time, he
Every
kind of
Sunday,
carried the
dude, I'd
torch
watch it.
for
It
men
was so good. I
who cared
loved it
about.
so much. I thought they did a great
Yeah,
job. I
I
didn't
didn't
really
get it.
watch Smallville
I
though.
liked it.
What's that?
Smallville was great. Smallville was great because again, all these stories that you're talking about, even the George Reeves in the '50s, they all focused on Superman's humanity, on Clark Kent, and that's where you can get the stories from is the humanity from the character.
I mean, he dresses up as Superman to protect Clark Kent, right? I mean, he dresses up as a different character to fight crime so that
Yeah.
his alter ego, his human persona can be protected. And you have that vulnerability too. I don't
Mhm.
know. Zack Snyder, I liked the Man of Steel. I thought it was an interesting concept up until, he's doing Superman 2. And then I get mad
Yeah.
because I'm like, dude, why? There's
Yeah.
tons of stuff. I don't need to watch Superman 2 again that was already done by Richard Donner and he did a great job. Make your own stupid story.
hmm
I don't want to see Metropolis get destroyed because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that Superman would destroy his own
There
town.
was a lot. There was a lot to not like about the DC universe, Superman. But I like the concept. I like the idea that Superman's. Uh, I like the idea that Superman doesn't work the way we would think he would work. But I don't like that as a mainstream concept. I don't like that for an actual movie. I like that, one shot, Elseworlds story like Red Sun Superman or
Oh, that was
Red
good. I
Rainbow.
love that. I just discovered that recently. The Red Sun
Yeah,
was where the Kyle, right, Superman, crash
yeah, yeah,
landed in
yeah.
Russia as opposed to
hmm
Kansas and was raised as a
Yeah,
Soviet. I only read the beginning of it because I was really interested in the concept. I wanted to see it, if he was going to be a bad guy. And spoiler, I guess the thing about the comic book was Superman, regardless of where he ends up, right? I mean, he's still going to be kind of a good
yeah.
guy.
Nature it gets into a lot of humanity again, nature versus nurture, and it is a great one shot, and that's one part I really applaud with DC is that they're not a well, they're not afraid. Obviously, if they're not in continuity, there's no fear there, but they aren't really afraid to take their characters into completely different directions and do cool things with them. Sometimes they don't work, but
The
they're not
Christopher
part
Nolan
of the.
trilogy was wonderful.
Oh,
At one,
absolutely,
I don't
absolutely.
know how I missed Batman Begins, and I think 9/11
Mm,
was that why I missed Batman Begins. Something happened when Batman Begins
I don't
came out
know.
that overshadowed it and prevented it from being this big thing. I watched it on DVD like the next year and went, "Holy crap! How the hell did I miss this?" I had no clue it was even
Yeah,
released somehow. And it didn't even
yeah.
make $100 million. I don't think. I don't think it made a lot of money. Batman Begins. I mean, I know this is not a DC cinematic universe. This is a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast.
Well,
But I mean, these are
they really
pedigrees,
should
right?
have.
These are how things are
They
built.
should
They're
have
built on
launched.
each other.
No, you're absolutely right. They should have launched the DC universe off of the Batman Begins. They even if they didn't want to get. If you remember the, does anybody remember the end of Dark Knight Rises with Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Hmm.
Uh, kind of possibly taking on the mantle of Batman. Even if he didn't want to be part of it, they could have just kind of wiped that away and put another Batman in
I
there,
thought
but
he was
they made
excited
it part
about
of
it.
the.
I remember that coming
Yeah,
out
I mean,
2008.
okay.
No, when did it come out? It was recent-ish,
Well,
2012
2005
maybe.
was Batman Begins.
Okay.
I think probably what 2011, 2012 for Dark Knight Rises. I can't remember
I
exactly.
know why I missed that. I was graduating college in 2005.
Yeah,
I was very, very distracted. So that totally just skipped me by. um,
yeah.
yes, I mean, that was really awesome. That was a great trilogy. They did a good job. People did not like the third one very much, but I think it was more that
I like. I actually liked it. I did like it. The Dark Knight Rises because they did something that they've never been able to do with Batman before. That was to give him an exit. They gave him a way to kind of take off the mantle, and that showed character growth too.
I
Which is
agree.
they never been done. Batman has
That,
really never grown as a character in 70 years. And so Dark Knight Rises kind of did something a little bit different, and I have to applaud it for that. Even if the movie wasn't stellar, they gave Batman a bloody character arc.
I didn't know. I didn't mind it, honestly. I didn't think it deserved to be
Yeah,
complained against. But then again, when people complain about a movie that much and I've already seen it and enjoyed it, I just completely dismiss them altogether.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think you said, yeah, yeah. People out there like some of the like Man of Steel and or Batman versus Superman. If you like those movies, then don't let get you down because they're just my opinion isn't any more valid than yours.
I mean, 2005 is a long time ago. They didn't have these
Yeah,
giant trilogies happen, these giant arcs kind of
no,
happening at that point in time. You told a story,
exactly,
right? I mean, you told
exactly.
one
This
standalone
is 3
story,
years before Iron Man.
and you might have a
I'm
second
sorry.
one, right? But that's not really going to be connected. You're not going to have the same bad guy. You're not working towards some kind of point. You just got lucky, and the studio said, "We got to have another one of these guys. Here's another couple $100 million. Go make it." And that was basically it.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's been done before until MC, and then everybody scrambling to do their own universe. DC's scrambling to do their universe. Universal Dark Monsters is trying to do theirs. The Godzilla, for heaven's sake, they want to do a King
Godzilla's trying to do it now
Kong
too.
Godzilla
Yeah,
universe.
man. There's another movie coming out with him fighting King Kong, right?
Yeah, but they don't. The failure of all of these movies was they don't have a good enough cast of strong standalone movies to support it. They don't have the framework in place.
2008, Iron Man's released. Did they know in 2018 they were going to have this movie come out that everybody is going to freaking love? I'm talking about the fourth Avengers, or yeah, the fourth Avengers movie. It kind of blew everybody away, right? In 2008,
Third
they make
Avengers
Iron Man.
movie,
Do they know they're doing
yeah,
that in 10 years?
they do know. Well, they
This
know
isn't
probably
Disney
up
though. In
until the
2008,
first
this is
Avengers.
somebody completely different though.
Well, that's true because it did change companies. They probably had a good, strong 5-year plan with hints of a 10-year plan. But it'd be great if that's a great question for Kevin
Right?
Feige or
I'm,
somebody. How far
Kevin
advanced
Feige
was
though
his
is
plan?
Disney. He came in after the fact though, didn't he? And he's not
You know what?
reinventing
I
he's not
wonder if
trying to
he
say
did
let's do
some.
Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. A small company is doing that, right? And like an independent film company is saying let's hire Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
to be our
I think you're right. I don't even think that. I mean, I think that they want to do something. We're hearing that having Nick Fury in at the end of Iron Man and talking about Avengers was more of a fluke chance and just happenstance. And so maybe the first couple films were hopeful, but they weren't really necessarily knitted together the way that they are now. So I totally see that. You
I
know,
mean, it's hard, right?
having Nick Fury.
I mean, now we know what's happening. We know that they're making
Oh
a
yeah,
fifth Avengers movie. Is it a fifth one or a fourth one?
fourth,
Which is it? A fourth
fourth.
one coming up?
Yeah, they.
And we just saw the third one.
Yeah.
I always get confused because the
Spoiler.
third Captain America movie was it felt like an Avengers movie,
Yeah, basically like Avengers, 2.5 or whatnot, and but that's great though because I do like it when characters are in each other's movies.
right? And
It
you can't
uh, it
have that
it,
anymore
it it's
without
pretty
having
cool.
it anymore, right? And even in like the Marvel comic book world, you really don't have standalones anymore. You have big mashups
Doctor
mostly,
Strange, Doctor Strange is pretty much a standalone, and Black Panther was pretty much a standalone, and those are recent. But you're absolutely right. But the thing
no,
is,
I mean
those were
even
establishment.
in like the
And,
comic books, they're interacting with other comic book heroes all the time. I mean, there's never ever just a strange book. There's other characters inside there
oh,
too.
yes, yes.
Marvel's big with that. They like to have a lot of their characters joining each other for adventures all the time.
And that will continue. But the Avengers 4 will be pretty much the end of this grandiose experiment that
Oh man,
Marvel
how many
Studios
films is
did.
it? 20 films?
20. It'll be what 22 when Avengers 4. I don't know if I want to spoil the possible title for Avengers 4 on your podcast, but you
I
can
haven't
Google
heard
it.
it.
It's not.
Do you know it?
What's that?
Or is that actually
Well,
100% what it's going
I
to be?
don't know.
Or
The actual, it's not been confirmed, but it makes sense.
I don't know if the title of a
But
movie can be considered a spoiler, man. Right? You got to know what the title of the movie is before you go to the movie. What I don't did you get upset that you knew it?
no, it's no. I'll go ahead and just say it because it's a good chance that it's probably wrong this early out in the game. Even if it is right, they could always change it. But supposedly, right now, the working title for Avengers 4, well, not working. They've already filmed most of the movie, I would think.
Yeah, I thought they were filming it
Principal
now,
photography
which
for Avengers 4 is done. They're doing research, yeah. But the end game would be the subtitle Avengers
well,
end game,
Endgame. That makes
which makes
sense.
sense because it is the end game.
And
The
they're changing
22 films.
22
What's
films
that?
and they're done. They're getting rid of everybody except for maybe Robert Downey Jr. They're going to recast the whole thing. And
No,
not recast. They're going to
no,
marvel
no,
it
no,
in
no,
terms
not
of
really.
they're going to say that this character is now the Captain America. They're going to give
Oh
people
well, okay.
mantles,
So
right?
yeah, I mean they'll be passing on mantles. Absolutely, it'd be awesome if you can get like maybe Shuri from Black Panther to be like the new Iron Man or Ironheart.
I mean, she could even
Um,
be the new Black
but
Panther because Black Panther's gone. I mean, that's the thing. At the end
yeah,
of, I mean,
exactly.
I don't know.
No,
There are no
they're not.
spoilers because you saw the movie, right? Probably opening weekend.
No. Are we gonna talk spoilers? Because I
Yeah, let's
mean, I
talk
don't know how we
spoilers.
can
Let's talk
talk
the whole movie.
Avengers.
We can talk whatever we
Yeah,
want. Um,
exactly. Everybody dies.
Everybody
Everybody's
dies.
dead.
50% of them die
That's the
anyway,
whole
right? I
thing.
mean, 50% of all these characters that we've come to know and love are dead or something. And we don't even know what the something is
Well,
at this particular point in time. Or they could be in the
it
shadow
was
realm or something along those lines.
exactly. Oh well, I mean, everybody's kind of got their theories. I have a couple theories, but I mean, for purposes of the at least the first half of Avengers 4, they're dead. Or not in the movie anymore. And until they're not, they come back in. They're dead until they're not. Like Bucky, he's dead until he's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And that's why you
but
have
it
to
makes
love
sense.
these movies,
Yeah,
right? Is because you never can expect you never know what you're going to expect with a character. They can die one year and the next year they're going to be resurrected. Um
there is a
or
big
another character's going to come in and wear their costume and you're going to be massively confused for a while.
possible. I would like to see. I think Winter Soldier. I think Bucky has his own arc. I think he has his own storyline. So I don't think he's going to take the shield. I would like to see Falcon take the shield from Steve. And I don't necessarily want Steve Rogers to die in the fourth one. I
The
think
actor does though, doesn't he? The actor's done. The actor doesn't want to
mm,
do it anymore.
yeah, I mean it kind of depends. I think the character can move on. You know, he doesn't have to play the character anymore. Captain America. He might cameo as Steve Rogers, director of Shield or something.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
yeah, his time as Captain America will be over for sure in Avengers 4. But that doesn't necessarily mean like even if he gives the shield away or he retires or he whatever, it doesn't preclude him from being part of the greater universe. It's just not front and center anymore.
Not
Same
front and
thing with
center.
Tony Stark. You kind of expect him to die, but that doesn't necessarily mean that his role is over completely. He
You're
may
kind of
still come
expecting
back to camp.
Tony Stark to die in 4. That's what you think?
Oh yeah, it would complete his character arc from somebody who's just a selfish, narcissistic, arrogant, self-centered person to somebody who makes the Captain America sacrifice play.
I think that's a
It
brilliant
makes
way to
sense
look
for the
at it,
character.
honestly. I think that's really interesting, right? Because you do have a Captain America, you do have a guy, Iron Man, who's never sacrificed, and then he's going to have a kid, and he does sacrifice himself. But what happens at the last minute is he is saved by the character that does sacrifice himself, right, and dies. I do think that Steve Rogers dies. Do think our Captain America that we've had for the last 7 films that he's been in, right, 7
Can
films, is going to die. But
well, I can't.
but Iron Man is going to live.
Okay, okay.
Because I mean,
I
even
think he
Doctor
might
Strange
die.
said that, didn't he? He said Iron Man's important. Iron Man can't
Well,
die.
he's I mean, he's the centerpiece of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I think in order to move forward and pass the torch, that again, death isn't permanent in the MCU. Um, even if he dies, he's Tony Stark. He's a tech wizard. Why else? Well, why wouldn't he upload him as himself as an AI for the next Iron Man or Ironheart? And then you still get the snarky. I would love to have him as like the Jarvis in the Iron Man suit. Giving the next Iron Man just a hard time for just being a rookie and being kind of incompetent at the job. So like what he's kind of doing as a mentor for Peter Parker right now. Like
Yeah,
just take it to the next level. That
that
would
could
be
have
really
ruined
cool. That
Spider-Man.
way, he still lives on, but he's still not there anymore.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get you what you're saying. That's interesting. But man, if they had put Iron Man in Spider-Man and that had not been a very good movie, they could have ruined both those characters, honestly, couldn't they have? I mean, they
Luckily,
take
it was a good movie.
risks. They take risks. I mean,
They
let's go
do.
through
They
the
do.
20
Well,
movies. Iron Man, there were 3 of them,
at
right?
the
There was
end,
one Incredible Hulk. There are 7 movies involving Captain America. 3 of them he's on his own. 4 of them
yeah,
he's in with the Avengers. Black
yeah,
Panther, right? An
yeah,
Ant-Man movie, 2 Ant-Man movies, 1
yeah,
Spider-Man movie. What am I missing here?
yeah.
Oh, the
Well,
Thor
you got
movies. There's been
Thor.
3, 4 movies.
Oh, yeah, Thor is sort of he doesn't get to play with the other characters as much, but rightfully so. I mean, because he's the god. They have the God of Thunder in another person's movie. They kind of out you'd overshadow the other characters.
They took away his godhood, though, didn't
What what's that?
they took away
They
his
took away.
godhood. They made him just a normal alien with like superhuman
Um,
abilities. They made him Superman
he's
with a hammer.
yeah. I mean, it kind of depends on your definition of God. Captain America, there's only one God, and he doesn't wear a cape or whatever that awesome line was that Joss pinned for Avengers. But to like Nick Fury, he is a God. So I guess it kind of depends on your character point of view whether Thor is a god or not.
I mean, if you're a Viking in like the 15th century, yeah, Thor's a god. But
Yeah,
if you're Doctor Strange
absolutely.
living in Manhattan, probably not going to be a god.
No, no, exactly, and that's one of the reasons that Avengers 4, excuse me, 3 worked so well. The personalities were so set. I mean,
Yeah.
they weren't just these flat characters interacting. I mean, Doctor Strange is Doctor Strange, and getting him in a room with Tony Stark was just genius. Because you got these two absolute arrogant bastards, trash talking each other, as they would. And then
Yeah.
you throw Peter Quill in there. You get three arrogant narcissists talking to each
So
other.
fascinating, the Guardians of the Galaxies, right? I didn't even know that was a comic book before that first movie came out, and that movie made me a fan. How's that happen, right?
Oh yeah,
Like in the
oh yeah. Well, I
1990s,
was a
if I
fan of
didn't know who
Mirage.
Captain America was, and I watched that movie that was on TV or whatever, and I watched Captain America then, or the Fantastic Four movie they had out in the 90s. I mean, that's
Yeah,
it for comic book movies, right? I'm never
yeah,
watching another one because they're shit. They're absolute 100% shit. And then all of a sudden, 2000, like we said, 8 happens, and they changed the world according to science fiction
hmm
superhero movies. I mean, is that Spider-Man? Did Spider-Man do that first?
I
Was it
don't.
the first X-Men? I mean, what caused this to
You had
happen?
to
Was it
hear,
Superman back in 78?
yeah.
What pedigree are we
Well, that
working
was
with here?
you had. If you want to talk about probably the origin of a good superhero movie, you probably would have to go back to 78 with Man. That was probably the first one, and then they just decided they didn't want to try again. Because then they made a whole slew of bad ones.
Bad ones in the 80s until
Um,
Batman, 1989. So, I mean, we're talking
well,
about 11 years of absolute shit. Well, that's not true because they made
yeah,
Superman 1 and 2 together, right, in 1978. So
yeah,
that's one
yeah. They
giant
were
4 hour.
filmed back.
Well, it was filmed back to
Yeah,
back, right? But I mean, yeah, it's
yeah,
one movie basically filmed within a certain amount of months. And they ruined that. I mean, they took Richard Donner off the second one, and still
yeah,
it's a good movie. I
yeah.
mean, it's a great
Exactly.
film. The first one's not as good as the second one. So maybe they were onto something in getting rid of Richard Donner.
I don't know. I don't know because I mean you got to lay the groundwork with the characters. So I mean the first one is a little bit more slower paced and such, but it does such a good job of presenting his humanity and presenting the fact that he's really he's really a citizen of Earth,
Ah,
and
man,
despite of his alien
Christopher
origins.
Reeves they could not have picked a better
Yeah, he
actor.
nailed it too. Yeah.
Disney
Yep.
MCU
I
by when did that
agree.
happen? MCU by. I mean, I don't think Marvel was doing this. I don't think Marvel said, let's make 20 interconnecting movies and we're going to have a giant payoff in 2019. I don't think they did that, 11 years ago. I
At
don't.
some point in time, that discussion was good. But see, again, they were focusing on creating good character movies rather than just throwing something together. And if we can just kind of sidetrack for a moment, there is a good way to fix the DC universe. If you're like me and you argue that the DC universe needs fixing, and that is to not do anything with it, let it go as it is, and just get back to basics. Start making good quality character movies,
Yeah.
off of these amazing roster of the films, and then here's the clincher: once they have like 4 or 5 good character films, that they can stand on their own, that they're strong, that people are fans of, then you do uh, uh, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't
Which,
know if
what do
anybody.
they do? What?
Crisis of Infinite Earths.
I've never
In
heard of
the
that.
80s, that was like the big thing. That was like Infinity War for DC. That was like where you had everybody ever created, ever drawn, everybody's drawn in one storyline. And then that's where they kind of reset the DC universe with
Yeah.
that.
Do you know what's funny though?
I think,
Watch DC do that now, and everybody's going to go, "Ha ha, you're copying Marvel," and they've been doing that since Man of Steel, haven't they? You're
yeah, they've
not
been
going to
doing
make
it
a
for a
DC
while.
universe.
DC is always really kind of put focus on a multiverse. They have different universes on top of different universes, and they can play off of that. So all they have to do is just make some good movies, and then
That's
then
all.
just reset it.
I think what they're doing,
And
the problem with DC
yeah,
is that they have beautiful movies. Like Zack Snyder's Watchmen was beautiful. Zack
hmm
Snyder's Man of
yeah, it's a great
Steel or
movie.
Batman versus
I agree.
Superman, they're beautiful, aren't they?
Well, if you're talking
Yeah.
cinematically, yeah, they are
Yeah.
absolutely, very well done for the most part. Sometimes it gets
Why
too
do they
CG.
suck so bad?
Sometimes it gets too dark.
Why are they so horrible though? I mean, that's the problem. You go see
The
Superman
CG,
or Man of Steel, right? And it's really good until a certain point, and then it falls apart. And we're talking
mhm.
about people who make millions of dollars to write scripts, and we're not even talking about one person. We're talking about 30
Yep.
people or so who said, "Let's write, Man
Well,
of Steel to be a shitty movie that nobody's gonna like." Basically, here's hundreds of
I
millions
don't
of
think
dollars that we're
that's
gonna
the thing, though.
waste.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and say, "I'm going to write, a shitty movie." No,
Yeah,
I mean, nobody who worked on that movie wanted it to fail. They all wanted it to
no,
succeed,
the
but
people who went to go
I
see it
think it
wanted
has to
to
do with
enjoy
the
it,
fact.
right? Nobody wanted that movie to
And
be bad.
I know, I
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
Absolutely, and I drug myself to the movies. Even though when like Justice League, I made myself go watch it, even though I knew it was going to be horrible. And of course, it was just
Yeah.
too rushed,
I
too
couldn't see that. I couldn't watch it all the
too
way through. And what a
really
great
hurt.
idea, right? And they even had they had a
Yeah.
marketing hook. Their marketing hook got me, and I wasn't even going to watch the movie because I was already kind of annoyed that it just seemed like it was patched together and looked horrible. But there was a
hmm
song that came out like right
hmm
before Suicide Squad came out, and they glued a bunch of scenes together, and it excited me. I was like, wow, okay, they hooked me. And
Yeah.
then the minute that movie came
Yeah.
out and it hit like a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, like, okay, never mind, I don't want to see that.
Well, let's see. That's the thing. If they can just move forward, start making some good movies, and if they do, the big countdown, Crisis on Infinite Earths, they can kill off a bunch of the characters that aren't working and start over. But here's the thing: if you throw everything in the pot and you make everything canon, then it all works. You could have the movie. You could have everybody. You could have reprise Michael Keaton as Batman for like a 30-second cameo, because you could have anybody in this movie. You could have Stephen Amell as Green Arrow for a 15-minute part of the movie, with the little storyline.
Yeah.
You throw everybody into the pot, and then if it works, then you can springboard off of that. It would
My
be
God, how much
amazing.
better
It would.
would Batman v Superman have been if it was Michael Keaton as the old Batman? Right?
Well, I think part of it is nostalgia. I think those of us who grew up seeing the Batman '89 in the theaters, that was a big moment for a 9-year-old me. Maybe I was 10. I can't remember exactly. Um, but I think it might be nostalgia. But he was awesome. Michael Keaton was awesome as Batman,
Yeah.
and he was a crazy Bruce Wayne. It was great for the character, I think.
I don't understand why that movie he shouldn't it should not have worked. And the people that were watching that or people that were going into that movie to watch it were going, this is not going to work. But it worked.
Yeah, it
It
shouldn't
shouldn't
have
have
worked.
worked. It shouldn't have worked. And he was not the
Yeah,
character. He
you
was
got a
not
comedian
Batman.
to
He
play
was not Bruce
Batman?
Wayne.
Yeah, he's
But
not
he is
Batman.
Bruce Wayne
I
and
remember
he's
that.
Batman. I mean, he is my Batman. He's my Bruce
Yeah,
Wayne. There's nobody that can beat him. They're all, cheap
yeah.
facsimiles, except for Christian
How
Bale
cool
in
that would
Batman
be.
Begins. I thought he did a great job as being Batman up until when he became Batman. That movie is brilliant. And then he becomes Batman and it's not as good anymore. Yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I actually see what you mean. He was good in the role, but he wasn't the best. I think they've always struggled to find actors. And the thing is, the thing that they did well with Christian Bale was to cast Christian Bale. He wasn't a well-known actor. He was able to kind of make that step into that role.
Yeah,
But they
he's the
always
guy
want to
who
put
lost a
in
bunch of weight
big,
from
big
mechanic.
actors.
You know what I mean? He went real skinny for a role. That's what he
Yeah,
was famous for at that particular point in time. That's why
yeah,
people.
exactly. The Mechanic, which is a fantastic movie. But
Or the
yeah, it wasn't.
machinist. What was it? The
Uh,
mechanic or the machinist? I think it's machinist.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Machinist. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Mechanic. Yeah, the the machinist. Yeah, he was eating an apple a day to get as scrawny, and then he had to bulk up for Batman. But you
Man,
know,
I can't do that.
don't
I
force
wish I
an
could
actor.
eat just an apple a day. That would be
Don't go for
wonderful.
George Clooney. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
go for a lesser known actor for a role like Batman.
Or one that's really
Cavell.
hardcore wanting to come back from a fail career, right?
Yeah, yeah. Cavell, I think, was a great choice for Superman. I think he has,
I think it's a great choice for James Bond too,
um,
man. I'd love to see that guy strap on the 007 as well.
yeah, that's true. He'd be a good James Bond. I think, I would like to see a new James Bond movie. I haven't heard anything about any
It's
upcoming
coming.
James Bond movie.
Daniel Craig's fourth is on, or fourth or fifth? Fifth.
Probably,
He
yeah,
will
I don't.
be
I've lost track.
the oldest James Bond, and he will be the one longest in the role when this next movie comes out.
Except that, like, well, I don't know. Connery did a lot more movies, and when he went back to say never, when he went back to do Never Say Never Again,
What's that?
I mean,
What's that?
uh,
I'm joking. I know what that is.
yeah, okay.
That's not canon
But
though. Unfortunately, they don't count it as James Bond's at
uh,
all. That dude said, "I want to be James Bond again," and James Bond said, "No, we already have one." And they're like, he's like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna
yeah,
make my own James Bond movie."
yeah. Well, you saw Connery, you can do it. No, Daniel Craig is a great James Bond movie, but I think that the mantle needs to be passed. Not saying he can't do it anymore. It's just that
Daniel Craig.
it doesn't hurt to have fresh blood every once in a while
Every once in a while,
for a
right?
role.
He wants to be out. He doesn't want to do it anymore
And
either.
he didn't want to do it in the last one, so I don't know why he's doing another one. You could tell his performance
Oh, I didn't see
was
the last
very
one.
placid in this last
I
one.
thought the
So
cool opening was good with the Mexican
mhm,
death parade. I thought it was really well done.
yeah,
And
yes, it
then
was.
I lost interest. Like
I fell
I mean, the
asleep.
bad thing is those are the type of movies that you pay $14 to go see, right? And you go to the movies and you get your
Yeah,
popcorn, you get your drink,
yeah.
and you're super excited to watch it, and you sit down and you watch the movie. But if you're like me and you wait for it
No,
to
I
whatever be on your computer, then you're ruining the opportunity to get blown away with a bad movie, right? I mean,
yeah.
theater doesn't really matter too much if it's a bad movie. At home, you're definitely going to notice the problems.
Exactly. And I waited for the movie to come out, and I watched it at home, and I fell asleep, probably midway through. Woke up a
Yeah.
little bit at the end.
I don't even remember what that movie
So
was about,
it's called Tenet
unfortunately.
if you haven't seen it. It was, yeah.
Thor, I mean, getting back into the
Um,
Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor is like that for me. The
hey,
first two movies of Thor were
are we supposed to
horribly
talk about the Marvel
boring.
Cinematic Universe? What's that? Thor?
Thor, yeah.
Thor 2 is probably the one of the worst uh movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's
Give
sad
credit completely
because
to Natalie Portman, right? I mean, it's 100% her fault.
no, I blame the very, very uninspired Rupert Everett did a great job with what he had. I think it was Rupert Everett. Was it?
Who
Oh man,
directed
I
that?
can't remember who the bad guy was. But it just the
I know who did the
actual
first one
amount.
was the Shakespearean guy.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh did a great
Yeah.
job with setting up the world of Thor and the universe. Thor, the first one was I thought was really good, and Kenneth Branagh was into his Shakespeare background to do a Shakespearean type family drama. But Thor 2 took all that and decided to just throw it away. And it's so unfortunate because Loki had so much awesome stuff to go in that movie. You know, it's worth it just to watch his character through the second one, but everything else is just kind of tepid. And
I didn't know
you
the
know,
first one or the second one.
oh no, it's the end of the universe again. Oh no, let's
Yeah.
throw some spikes in a big swirly cloud. You would think
Yeah.
by Green Lantern, people would have shied away from giant anamorphous clouds as the bad guy.
Well, unfortunately, on this
But whatever.
planet, anamorphous clouds are basically all we have to show like a very scary thing. Right? I mean, we can't go far, we
Yeah,
can't go
I
too
mean,
far
it
beyond
didn't work
physics.
for it didn't work for Galactus, is in that horrible Fantastic Four sequel. It didn't work for, like, Jean Grey's fiery. Everything's turning to ash. In anamorphous doesn't work in film, and yet everybody uses it, and it boggles the mind. It's like a trope that you know is going to fail. Why are you doing it?
I don't know. We know that Dark World failed because I didn't even see it all the way through. I did see the first one. I have not seen Dark World. And what's interesting, your comment of, they threw everything to the wind and made the second one. They did the same thing with the third one too. They said,
Yes,
okay,
this,
Thor didn't work. Thor Dark World didn't work.
yeah,
Let's just make a totally different movie. And I think Thor Ragnarok blew me away. It was good. It was really freaking
it,
good.
I recognize that a lot. There's a lot of people out there who don't like it, who thought it was not Thor. It was a huge departure from the character. But in my opinion, it did work because you needed to see kind of a lighter version of Thor, somebody who's kind of growing a little bit more self-aware. He's not the Thor Shakespeare in the park anymore.
Yeah.
He can kind of make fun of himself a little bit more now.
Oh my God, man, that
He
scene where
doesn't
he
have to
walks
take
up to
it
Steve
seriously.
Rogers in Avengers 3 and says, "Oh, I see that you've grown a beard to be just like me," or something along those lines.
Yes,
Such a great
yes,
moment for that
yeah,
character because it's one, he's noticing Steve Rogers, first off, maybe
mhm,
emulating him as
exactly,
a god or whatnot. It's just fascinating to think of Thor now because he is more human. He has vulnerabilities. You saw him
yes,
kind of fighting against something that he didn't know how to deal with, and that makes somebody interesting.
exactly, exactly. Whenever you can make your character, and that's one of the things that worked really, really well in Iron Man. Whenever you can make your character the clear underdog, and let
100%.
me
And it has
talk
nothing to do
about
with the end of that movie, does it? They had a great bad guy in Lebowski, right? They had a great bad guy. But
yes,
really, it's
I
about his struggle, the
I know you
rocky
can't get
struggle.
better than
No, you can't
what
get better
the
than the
dude, not
dude.
the dude.
I mean, that was a great
Yes,
bad guy for that movie. But I mean, ultimately, you have this relationship being developed for the first 30 minutes or so where you see him being
mhm,
Rocky, you know what I mean? Struggling to come up with technology to escape his captors. I mean, it's scary. This is very fresh from it's dealing with a lot of things that are happening in the news too, with terrorism and ransoms and kidnappings. So I mean, it really affects
mhm.
you when he escapes. You're like, oh, that's awesome. Let's go on a ride. And the rest of that movie is not really that good. I don't know.
I
Maybe I
I
just
would
love these
say,
origin stories where these struggles take place, these really great human struggles. And
well, that's one of the problems that the MCU does have. The third acts typically are, and I can't take
monster of
credit
the week,
for
right? Let's
saying,
beat the bad
uh,
guy. Let's take down the bad guy in
yeah,
Monster 2.
it's a mirror. It's always a mirror match. I can't take
Yeah.
credit for using
That's what they
that
call it
term,
too,
mirror
isn't it? A
match.
mirror match where you
Know,
have your
Iron Man
powers and this
versus
guy's the
Iron Man.
opposite. You're electric guy
Yes.
and he's water man or something or sand guy.
No, no, same. It's the same.
Oh, it's the
I
same.
mean, the Ant-Man movie had somebody else you could shrink, and Black Panther, it was another Black Panther. You have, and part of me likes it, but another because I like the duality. The dark path, the light path. Fighting at the end. I get that hero's journey, and I get why they've done it. It can kind of get a little bit tropey. And I think we should talk a little bit about the hero's journey because that takes a huge that really kind of describes the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially Avengers three. What do you think about that?
I don't know
Um,
because the hero's journey gets a lot of credit for a lot of stuff, right? And I'm kind of doing a little bit of an exploration on Reddit with it right now. Every week I'm posting a new kind of chapter on the hero's journey to fantasy writers. So
oh, okay.
I'm getting
Yeah.
a really good chance to kind of examine it as a concept for writing. And it's not easy because
Hmm.
honestly, Joseph Campbell was not a writer necessarily, or if he was a
No,
writer, he
who's
was
a
basing the
mythology?
theory of his hero's journey off of Jungian
Hmm.
psychology, which is all
Hmm.
dreams and symbols and things of that nature. Death is a big part of that, right? Death looms
Hmm.
at the end of all journeys because that's where we all end up. So, I mean, in a
Hmm.
hero's journey, things start with a prophecy, right? Your hero is a farmhand who is told that he's going to be great, right? Somebody tells him that you're destined for greatness, and he gets shoved
Yeah,
onto this
supernatural.
road. I mean, Spider-Man's a great example of that, right? You get shoved on this road towards the heroism, and the entire time you're dragging your feet going, no, 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 I don't want to go, until you have no choice
Yeah,
but to go because your life is over with regardless. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
can
Is
see
that how
that.
you view the hero's journey? Let's see what you think of the hero's journey, and then we'll discuss the MCU and in relationship to both our ideas.
Well, I mean, Joseph Campbell. I mean, like you said, it basically compiled from from the ancient Greeks and the uh, Babylonians, and just basically all the cultures that he's has had, and just kind of compiled this. Where are they consistent at? Where do they depart from? And he basically just found that we all have this sort of commonality in the way we tell stories. That kind of what I like about it unifies us as humans, humanity. We're all storytellers, and we all the same way to tell a story.
We'll
Sort
add
of
also
a certain way,
we're all the heroes of our individual stories, of our own
and we're
epic
all the heroes.
journeys. You're all the
Hmm.
heroes, all
And
of us.
that's
You're the hero of your journey. I'm the hero of mine. And if you want to interact with my story, you can either be a co-star or the bad guy. You cannot be the hero of my journey. You know what I mean? Only I can do that.
exactly we're all the hero, and that applying that to you know the Marvel cinema. They all sort of follow that motif, especially Avengers 3,
Yeah,
especially with
yeah.
Avengers 3.
That's what they did,
But
right?
it's
Everybody's personal stories were forefront. I mean, there wasn't just one guy going,
yeah,
hey,
no,
what's it called? Guardians of the Galaxies, I need your help. And they're like, okay, blah, 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 I'll help you out. No, Guardians of the
well,
Galaxies were dealing with their own individual problems along with everybody
mhm.
else. That was
Well,
brilliant.
I would actually argue that in Avengers 3, and this has already kind of been confirmed by the Russos, but I want to kind of give myself a pat on the back because I saw this and I kind of broken apart, separate before I realized that they had basically said it. But I mean, the heroes in Avengers 3 were really the protagonists. They were really the bad guys. They weren't working together. They weren't helping each other. They were, like you said, dealing with their own personal squabbles rather than the greater picture. They were basically the obstacles to Thanos, and it was very much his hero's
Yeah,
journey. It
I
was
totally got that. I
very
didn't
good.
know that going into the movie, but while I was watching the
Yeah,
movie, I'm like, oh, dude, Thanos is the good guy here. He's the one who's
yeah,
trying to help
yeah,
the universe out. The universe is overcrowded. He's trying to
exactly.
get every other guy. I mean, he's trying to kill 50% of the
He,
then everybody because it's too crowded and it's dangerous. And that's the way to do
mhm,
it.
he's
And
the
everybody, all
big
these
guy.
bad
He is
superheroes are trying to
absolutely the big
stop him
guy.
from doing that.
And the
So
superheroes are the obstacles there, and
to each
they
other
do
too.
this.
I mean, what a great example. If you think about the Guardians of the Galaxies, right? In that one scene where Thanos is sleeping because of Mantis, right? He's
Uh huh.
snoring, and they're getting the glove off of his hand. And who punches him? Was it what's his name?
Star Lord, and everybody gives
Yeah,
Peter Quill crap for
Quill. I
that,
wanted to say
but see,
Finch
it
for some reason, but
goes
Quill
much deeper.
punches him in the face.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
doesn't knock him out. He does the opposite. He wakes him up. What an asshole! They could have
exactly.
everything could have been done right there. They could have been over with, and Thanos could have been whatever. But they
Well,
ruined
no,
it. He
no,
ruined
no.
it.
The thing is, everybody points to that one scene, but my argument is that everybody was doing it. Um, Tony Stark, he went off to face Thanos alone. He knew that, in his visions that he had in Avengers 2, that Thanos was the guy who, goes off and kills everybody. And so he tried to do it himself, alone, even though Captain America warned him, hey, we do this together. Even if we fail together. And he didn't take that advice. He tried to do it himself. So Tony Stark, he failed because he tried to do it by himself.
What about
uh,
Doctor
Peter
Strange? I
Quill was
think
going
he
through
was
his
the only
own
one that was kind of
personal crap.
selfless. Doctor Strange. Do you think he was
He,
selfless?
yes.
I think so
Well,
too. Because at one point
and I want to.
he could have given the thing away, right? He did give the thing away. but he kept it until he realized that
Well,
Tony Stark was the reason that they were going to win at the end of the day,
yeah,
right? And he gave it away
and
then.
I want to get into that in just a moment because I think that's very important, and that's the key to the whole thing. But also, I just want to say, Thor also felt his own arrogance, his own, I told you I was going to kill you, I pay you back for this. And Thanos is like, well, you should have just aimed for the head. But Thor had to gloat. Thor had to just stop. So
No, it's
you
very
got Tony who
true.
felt. You got
What happened there? Because he did
you
have an
know,
opportunity to win, and he did something stupid. What
he
was it that
had
he
an
did?
opportunity.
What?
What? Well, Thor. Yeah, I mean, he could have just aimed Stormbreaker at his head, and that would have been it. But he wanted to say, "Ha! I'm the person who killed you." And if it wasn't for that, then yeah.
It
So
was a
you have all
very
these.
anti-hero movie, wasn't it? I have never thought. Have you
Absolutely, because
read something about
they
that,
were
or
good
did you
at it.
create that all on your own? That theory of it being an anti-hero movie.
Well, it is pretty much written for that. I mean, I went online and like every good comic book person does this day and age, and read it and stuff. And then I found that the Russos had basically said that they wrote the movie with Thanos as the hero, taking the
It's
hero's
brilliant.
journey,
It's
and
really good.
all the steps are there. All the
Yeah.
steps are
Now that
there.
you're
They're
kind of
so
expressing it to me, I see it, and I saw it watching it, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
dude, I like Thanos in this movie, even though I
yeah,
know he's the bad guy. It's so odd.
yeah. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, he has to go through, and he has the dark moment of the soul where he's got to throw his only thing he ever cared about into, you know, the underworld, the Soul Stone. But the whole point, I mean, that going to and meeting the Red Skull, and I can't remember the name of the planet that was on. That's right out of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and the underworld visit and such. Getting the relic and all that. I mean, that is Joseph Campbell right there.
Who
So it
got
was
called to
very purposeful.
prophecy though? Who's the hero according to lore? Because I mean, that's a big part of it, and Avengers especially. There's no
Mm-hmm.
one particular hero either. So I mean, who do you? How do you use the hero's journey for Avengers? Well, who's your hero? Just the
Well, that's
Avengers?
no, it's Tony Stark. It's Tony Stark's
It's
world.
always
Everybody
Tony
else is
Stark.
just living in.
And
It
his
really is Tony Stark,
prophecy
and that's why
is
he
his
has.
father's legacy,
That's
basically.
why he
His
has.
father's legacy is like always kind of
Yeah,
haunting him and going, you must, you must, you must. I died. You must take up my mantle and do what I wanted to do with my life. Is that his prophecy? What's his
yeah, I can
prophecy?
see that. Yeah, that's his call to greatness or his super.
Call to greatness.
Even
Thank
if
you.
you want to call it his super call. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
great.
I mean, it is Tony Stark's world, and he's very the fabric, which is why I say even though he's got to die in this next one, he's still gonna remain on to kind of like be that thread that holds it all together.
Yeah, I don't think he does. I
Um,
do think it's going to be Steve Rogers. I think he'll sacrifice himself at the very last minute to save his friend. They're his enemy, basically. I mean, at this point, they're enemies, aren't they?
yeah,
I don't think they did a good enough
yeah,
job
they
of
are
that.
absolutely.
They're
They
enemies,
did a
right?
very good job of dividing the movies. Everybody was divided. Every full potential. I mean, obviously, the Hulk couldn't come out and play. I mean, nobody was really bringing their A game with them, and that was very much
The
so. And
Hulk couldn't come out to
that's
play.
why
My God,
you're
that's
going to
so
get that.
good, man.
Yeah,
That's so good. I
you're going
love
to
it.
get that moment
And
where
we're
they
all
all come
wondering what
together.
the
They all
Hulk
have
Buster
a
is going to
plan.
be used for, right? Is the Iron Man going to fight the Hulk? Is that what's going to happen with the Hulk Buster? No, the Hulk Buster is for Bruce Banner to ride in so he could be a part of things.
Yeah,
What a great little
yeah.
twist, right? I remember that. We were like,
That
oh,
was
dude, the
that
Hulk
was
Buster.
clever.
And it
Yeah.
turns out that the Hulk's avatar is going to be inside that. That was brilliant, honestly. It was really good. I mean, it's interesting because going back to James Bond, this is a movie franchise that changes their main actor out all the time, right? Kind of try to keep things young and fresh, and I guess appease the fans with somebody who they can talk about or whatever. But in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have like the Joss Whedon who did the first two Avengers movies, and then they switched it up to the Russo brothers. So I mean, maybe Joss
Hmm.
had a totally different vision with what he was doing, and then this new
Hmm.
movie is completely different from Civil War on, right? From
Exactly. Yeah, the Russo brothers. And oh man, I'm blanking on the scriptwriter's name, Feely or something. Oh man,
For Civil
I'll
War?
have to look it up. For Civil War and Infinity War and Winter Soldier. I think it's been the same directors and writers for all four.
Well, that makes sense
Cap,
because honestly, they have a through line.
uh, a
I have to wonder,
significant
right?
through
We're
line.
not a
They
part of.
have replaced the minor actors, obviously. I know they replaced Hulk, with Mark Ruffalo. He's done an amazing job. They
Yeah,
replaced War Machine, uh,
War Machine.
Don Cheadle,
Yeah, him. Unfortunately, Terrence. What is his name? Terrence Howard
Terrence Howard.
did a fantastic job as that
He
character.
did. He did.
It's too
He
bad he
did.
turned out to
I
be a
really,
complete asshole. I guess, right? That's why they fired him. He's just not a very good guy.
I actually have no idea. So I don't remember what the reasoning was. It might have been money. I know they always wanted Don Cheadle for the role, and you couldn't get him. And then I guess he became available, and maybe they just like, hey, let's do it.
Who
Uh,
would you have liked for that role? Anybody or Don Cheadle? He's fine for me. I mean, I don't care. He's so minor, right? He's like
yeah, I
a
mean, I like Terrence Howard too, but I mean, Don Cheadle, man, it's tough. They both brought kind of something a little bit different to the role. For one thing, I would have to say is um, I don't think Don Cheadle steps up. I mean, sorry, I, not the actor, the character. I want to see him kind of come up on his own. He's always kind of living in Iron Man's shadow. He doesn't
standalone
seem to
movie, right? I
be
mean, why
like,
not? You can have a standalone movie for him.
why not?
Why not? And Don
Yeah,
Cheadle's a
yeah,
great actor,
exactly,
and the character is just
yeah,
as strong as
exactly.
Iron Man, right? Just an Iron Man character. And we
Yeah,
haven't had a
I
good
just
Iron Man
you
movie
see
since
where
2008.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
there's
you're right
some
though. It was
yeah,
it was Kevin Feely who wrote that. And I'm looking at a list of directors and writers, and they change. I mean, they're all over the place, right? I mean, stage one or
oh
the
yeah,
phase two, you kind of see some of them coming up with the Russo brothers doing Winter Soldier. That's where the themes really started to fly. Like you
that's
don't
where
have phase three
exactly that's
without the
where
Russos,
because I
right?
don't think they really knew what they were doing with Avengers 2, because Avengers 2 is sort of like out of left field, in my opinion. And this,
Age of
I'm saying
Ultron.
this as a big Joss Whedon fan. Age of Ultron isn't needed. It wasn't really. They could have gone right. They could have just made Civil War Avengers 2,
Yeah.
and
And
it
that's
probably
just
would
to
have
me an
been
example of
tough.
they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, this is all just guessing.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
at the end of the day, they say, you know what, guys, we can retrofit all this into one story. Watch,
Exactly. Yeah,
scratch it out of script, and here you go. Now all 20 films are together. Is it historic? Is it going to stand up? That's the main question. I mean, we're kind of talking about something
it
that's
will.
impressive, right? Here's a 20
It will.
story movie arc that's taken place over the
Mhm,
last 10 years. And now we're looking
mhm,
at it, and you have broken it down over the last hour or so. And I think you just said the most important thing, that the Russo brothers made this thing into what it is. You don't hire the Russo brothers to do Civil War. You don't have a 20 movie arc. You just have a mess.
yeah, I can see that. Totally see it, because I don't think it was really firmed up until they developed that through line,
Because Ultron is
and
not a great
it
movie in
improved.
terms of continuing that idea from the first film. I don't think, or is it? Did they have the stones? Because they did have the stones there. There was a through line throughout these movies, wasn't there? There was the
Well,
through
yeah, I
line
mean,
of those stones.
they always knew that they were going to incorporate the stones. They always knew that they were going to probably have Thanos as the bad guy. I mean, you saw that from the first Avengers, but getting up to
Was
Avengers, I
Thanos
don't know
in that
how
movie? I can't
Thanos
remember,
is in
man.
he's the one who sent Loki down with the staff. He's like, "Hey, go do this." And
Oh,
there's
okay. So he
really
did initiate it. And maybe that was an accident. Was Thanos a good enough villain at that particular point in time?
well, he. I don't think he was really too concerned with, from his perspective. Earth is just a giant watery mud hole with
Yeah, just another place in the
backwater.
galaxy, right? Nothing special.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
special to
it's
us because we live there. That's all it is. If we lived on that Gold
Exactly.
People's planet, we'd
So
be all upset about them losing their batteries or whatever and Guardians of the Galaxies. But we live in the Dairy Queen planet.
exactly.
And that's why we're all
We
upset.
live on the Dairy Queen planet. That's us. We had one Infinity Stone or two, I guess. I don't know how Earth ended up with two, way back then, and I guess we had like three or four at one point in time.
My question
But
is, how the hell did
Earth,
Doctor Strange end up with one? Because isn't he like a new sorcerer? Like we saw him just a few
well,
years
no,
ago becoming the sorcerer of whatever blah blah blahs. What the hell is he doing with an Infinity Stone? Or did I miss a
well,
part of that
okay,
movie? I think I've again third
yeah,
act problems. I don't remember the end of that movie at all. I love
I
the
really
beginning
like
of it.
Doctor
I
Strange.
loved it. Stephen
I,
Strange is like,
yeah,
I'm a dick. I'm gonna break my hands. I need to fix my hands. Oh, I've discovered magic. Beautiful movie. What the hell happened in
mm-hmm.
the end of that movie? I have no clue. Because again, we're talking about a mirror
it,
fight, and I was bored and I stopped watching.
it was, it was a mirror fight, a mirror match. The Baron Mordo in the next one, I'm sure. But actually, there's a lot to say about Doctor Strange because there's a lot more going on in that movie that's going to come into play in Avengers 4. For one thing, obviously, the Time Stone was under the care of the Sorcerer Supreme, and if you noticed, Thanos didn't attack Earth and take these stones until after everybody who was a threat to him was taken care of. I mean, Odin died. The Sorcerer Supreme died. I mean, so Earth was pretty much defenseless. And then Thanos goes in and takes it. The Silver Avengers were fractured through Civil War, so there was nobody really there that was on
So he
his
was just
power
biding
level.
his time. Is that what you're saying? He was like, "Oh, people got to die before I
Yeah,
do
I
my
think.
ultimate plan."
Well, I think if honestly, if we're not making a movie and this is real life, you're not going to go in and attack Earth with Odin still around because Odin's going to throw down with you. And Sorcerer Supreme is probably. I mean, you saw Doctor Strange; he's not very powerful, and yet he still was able to hold his own with Thanos. So, I mean, I would imagine the Sorcerer Supreme being the ancient one being a little bit more
But he's
powerful and
the
being able to
sorcerer supreme,
hold
though.
it.
He got that mantle.
Well, he is now. He is now. But I mean, they had the Time Stone. That was their protect. I mean, that was their thing that they had to protect the Infinity Stone. And that was so they've always had it. I don't know how Earth ended up with the Tesseract and the Time Stone and all that stuff. We're just this backwater mud hole. But
Loki, right? Loki gave the
because
Tesseract. I mean, that's how that kind of happened, isn't it?
well,
Oh my
no,
God!
because
I mean,
Captain America,
it's so
the
interesting.
Tesseract
These
was
are
kind of
not
hiding
simple
out.
movies at the end of the day, are they? There is a lot of little twisting tendrils of plot that kind of connect accidentally with each other.
Yes, well, happenstance, accident, and some lucky through line plan. You're absolutely right. Little things like that they add to the experience. But
But
Doctor
you love
Strange
it, right?
is
You
actually
have to
very
love
important.
it. You
What's
have
that?
to love what they're doing. I mean, it's brilliant. And I am
Yes.
so irritated. I don't know what camp you were in. And I do think that we're basically about the same age, right? You're how old
Yeah,
are you?
I'm 38. I'm
30, I'm
38.
41. So, I mean, we're
Okay.
3 years apart. We
Yeah.
basically grew up in the same decade ish, you know? We experienced the
Hmm.
same things growing up. We both know that Howard the Duck was the best movie made in the 1980s. We know this. It's 100%
Absolutely.
true, and there's no arguments that you can give me otherwise. God, man, that was such a great Marvel movie.
Well,
And it's part of the Marvel
he's
Cinematic Universe. So
actually
we're wrong. Like, George Lucas made the first MCU movie,
okay. I can see that. They're the first interconnected universe, a
right?
galaxy.
He's in the movie that we just saw, or
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
last one.
you don't have Avengers Infinity War without the influence of Star Wars. I mean, you don't have a lot of pulp culture. You don't have a lot of this without
Oh,
the influence.
I was going to say you don't have Infinity Wars without Howard the Duck. He started the whole damn thing.
I see what you, I see what you're saying. Yes, Howard the Duck is actually the MacGuffin they're going to use, or the McQuacken they're going to use
McCracken,
for Avengers
Quacken,
4. You can just kind of come in and
obviously.
use Quack Fu and sleep with Scarlett Johansson. I mean Black Widow, and
And he could do
and
it too.
hey,
I mean, he already got Leah
he would.
Thompson.
He absolutely.
He already got her.
If
So I
he can,
mean,
yes,
he got the epitome of
yes.
80s babes. Scarlett Johansson is no match for Howard the Duck. It's not going to happen.
This is true. This is
He's going to
true.
pimp
She
her
will
out to all
be.
of his duck friends. She's going to have duck babies. That's what the whole movie is going to be
Mhm.
about. It's going to be duck
Yep.
porn. No, I'm joking. No, I just thought about
Well,
that though.
Howard the
He's
Duck is
in
absolutely. I love the fact that Howard the Duck is canon. And don't forget about Cosmo the Space Dog. I mean, these throwaway characters, not throwaway characters. I'm sorry, I'm going to get in
Spider
trouble by
Ham
Howard the
too.
Duck fans.
Is canon. Spider Ham.
But
When they killed Spider-Man
I
a few years ago,
yeah,
when Doc Ock inhabited his body, right? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
I think they fixed
yeah.
it by kind of opening up the other realities, and one of those realities was Spider-Ham's reality, and he came
There's a
across the
Spider Ham
threshold.
universe.
There's a
Awesome.
Spider-Ham universe. I mean, that's
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 great.
fantastic. I mean, you gotta love these comic book worlds for that, right? I mean, they're so vast. They've
Yeah.
got so much in them. You could do anything you want within those universes. They're made for movies. They're made for comic books. It is brilliant. And we didn't even talk about it, but Ant-Man's coming up. And that's a
We didn't
weaker
talk about.
installment to the MCU, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the best.
Well, Ant Man. The brilliant thing about Ant Man and the Wasp is that it's going to be more, in my mind, it's going to be more light, more comedic, something refreshing after Avengers, after the sadness of Avengers. It'll be palate cleansing,
But
and it's
we'll
just
still get answers though. That's the best part about it, is that there are going to be elements of this movie that are going to come up later on.
yeah. I
They're going to
think I think a lot of people are saying that the quantum realm is going to be a huge, MacGuffin answer to help out with the Avengers 4, and that makes sense to me. I'm not entirely sure how the quantum realm will come into play, but it does make sense that there is pocket universes and stuff. They were talking about different dimensions and stuff in Doctor Strange. So and in the first Ant-Man movie. So absolutely.
I love it.
And you
I
saw
mean,
that the Soul Gem is basically a dimension too. So they're definitely playing with the idea of different dimensions in the Marvel universe now.
yeah, and it's very interesting. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, and obviously, it's not going to end anytime soon. Every movie they make at least pulls in $500 million, if
Yeah,
not a lot more than that. I think Avengers Infinity War is like one of the first movies ever to make $2 billion, which is out freaking outrageous, right? It's so crazy
yeah,
they could
$2
do
billion
this.
is absolutely insane.
Insane for a movie.
And
A
just
movie.
think about it. Yep, you're going to make it again in the next one, next year. I
Remember
mean,
when
who's
we were
not going to
kids? A
see?
movie would make $100 million, and they'd be like celebrating. We're a success. We did it,
Oh,
guys. We get to make another movie. And now it's like, oh, we didn't make
uh-huh.
$1 billion. We suck. We're never making
Well,
another
but
movie
see, you hit
again.
on a really good point. Back then, really good showing, and they made a sequel. It didn't necessarily have to connect to the other movies. It was mostly standalone, like the Batman, the old, the George Clooney, Val Kilmer Batman movies.
Yeah,
They
this
didn't
is
really,
another adventure of Batman, which is
yeah,
fine, right? I mean, you can have another adventure of Batman, and it doesn't have to be connected to the other. How many Batmans are there right now? 7 or 8, 9 movies at this
yeah.
point, and you don't have to
Oh,
connect them all. I kind of like what DC
you
is
don't have
doing.
to. I think DC should just make some good quality movies,
And I
and they
think that's what they're going
can.
to aim to do, right? They've got Martin Scorsese coming up to direct the Joker film. They have what's his face coming back to reprise his role from Suicide Squad's in a Joker movie. So they're going to explore the Joker character
Uh,
to death.
uh, I'm not sold. I'm not really sold on that concept. When I mean good movies, I'm talking about taking their 70, 80 year history and putting forth like a good Booster Gold Beetle movie. A good like buddy comedy type movie with superheroes and time travel and stuff. That would be something different, something that you haven't seen before. Something that draws on. I mean, the Jared Leto Joker is pretty much a whole new take and a whole new
Yeah, it's
direction of the
interesting, right?
character, and yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
got Heath
and
Ledger, who
I
did
mean,
the PTSD veteran Joker, which I think is
hmm
brilliant. You can't ever match it. Jetto, what's his name?
no,
Jared Leto. His character is disgusting to
no.
like a really horrible degree. Like you almost
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
I
not.
almost feel like I want to throw up watching him on screen. Is that horrible of a character?
It's like Joel Schumacher went to a Juggalo concert, and that's the birth of this movie. I mean, it just of that iteration of the Joker. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it's
just
a
didn't.
disgusting character. I'd love to see them kind of flesh that out a little bit so I can watch it at play, because unfortunately, all of that work went to like what 30 seconds of screen time or something in Suicide Squad.
I don't understand why they didn't just make him the bad guy of the film. I
Why even
mean,
have him in there to begin with, right? And you have his
or yeah,
girlfriend in
either
there.
just
Why not have the
don't.
Joker? Yeah, it doesn't make. I didn't watch it all the way
You
through,
don't
so I'm not
actually
even sure
need
what the
him
plot
in
is.
the movie.
They spent so much time going, hey, how about another hero? Let me introduce this guy. Do you want another one?
Every
Here's another one.
hero got, or anti-hero in this case, every hero got like three different introductions. And it was getting really tedious.
I
Like,
just
okay,
don't
you introduced
understand
us
how
to the
that
character,
story
but in
was
case you
written.
missed it,
I don't understand how that story's
again,
written, man. We both write novels, right? We write novels. We write
yeah,
100,000
uh,
word stories. And I don't think our stories could get that messed up to the point where we're selling something with multiple introduction scenes.
also we're also writing. We're the only person who are writing those stories. I mean, these movie things when they cost $200 million to make, you got like you got too many pots in the
Yeah,
hands in the
but
pot. Too
everybody's reading
many.
the script. And you know what I'm saying? Like one
Yeah,
dude wrote the script and he wrote 5 introduction
yeah,
scenes for every one of those characters. And the next guy
yeah.
comes and goes, 5? No, he deletes 2 of them. And the next guy that comes along goes, oh, 3 for each? That's fine. That works for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Somebody's an idiot. Somebody went, huh, this is the best script ever. Let's spend $200 million on this. Not only that, but a bunch of people sat in
exactly.
a room together and said, hey, yo, Bob, draw on the board. We want a diagram what this scene is going to look like. And they did that for every single scene, every shot they were going to make in the movie. So, I mean, I don't understand how they
Yeah.
didn't know that sucked and was boring. You know what I mean? Nobody said, guys, I fell
Uh,
asleep 4 times and this needs to change.
well,
dudes, dudes in New
DC is
York are not going to watch
looking
the
at
end of this movie.
it.
That's all I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're so nervous about making a movie that they don't trust any one person to do it. And then they do have like one person to do it. Like in the case of Wonder Woman, got somebody who was passionate. They drew on a character that was different. We hadn't
Yeah.
seen in the theater before. They really fleshed her out and gave her humanity. The movie was
And
about
that movie
her
was made in that
humanity,
Zack Snyder way too,
and
wasn't it? That had his cinematic qualities to it. I think that movie would
Zack
match very
Snyder.
well with Watchmen and Man of Steel
Yeah,
and Batman vs Superman. I think that's a very,
yeah.
Patty Jenkins
It
obviously is not, um, what's his face, Zack
Zack
Snyder,
Snyder.
but there's a
Yeah,
lot of similarities there in the way those movies were made.
I
And
like
now that's
Zack
done, right?
Snyder
Zack
movies.
Snyder's done. He's not coming back for DC
No,
anymore. Yeah.
no, but I mean, but it's again, just keep moving forward. Make some movies, make some good Aquaman movies, some Flash, throw in some of the lesser known characters. Who would have thought Guardians of the Galaxy would have been that big? You can make a
Right.
movie out of a lesser known character, and it will work. You can have, you know, oh my gosh, I just went completely blank on DC's entire roster of heroes. But you can bring somebody, and then if you get enough, you can kind of start making a universe. You can have Crisis on Infinite Earths where they go up against the Anti Monitor, who's not just destroying the galaxy but the entire multiverse, and you can
Yeah.
have Dean Cain wearing the Superman outfit for like 30 seconds, along with all the other heroes.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, just
That would be super
just
cool.
make it.
Now he'd be down
Yeah,
for it too, because he
it
still
would.
talks about Superman all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I've talked to him a couple of times at cons, and he's so
Have you
nice
really?
and so personable.
That's
Yeah,
cheating,
yeah,
man. I don't
absolutely.
like the
And
autograph lines at all. I'm like, no, how much? No, you're not that famous. I don't even care. I'll stand over here and
exactly,
sneak pictures. Here's a video. Here's a sweeping shot of
yeah,
the whole auditorium. Oh, I'm just gonna stop on your face. Uh, they're
exactly.
man. I can't believe how much
No,
those
I
autographs
don't
cost.
think it's really just it's not even the autograph. It's really just being able to shake their hand and say thank you so much for your hard work that gave me so much entertainment and value and added to my life in such a positive way.
Yeah, it's very
It's
interesting.
just
But they didn't even
yeah,
do anything other than
and,
just be willing to be molded towards that character. I mean, honestly, the people that I want to talk to are the writers, the ones that actually make that
yeah,
happen. Their vision on paper is what starts it all. I love those
oh, I
original
know,
concept people, man. And I think what we look at when we talk about these movies is marketing, right? You have marketing machines that work and you have marketing machines that don't work. You have a situation where, what's his face? Swingers. What's that guy's name? John
uh,
Favreau makes Iron Man 1 and
yes,
2 on his own
yep,
with no idea of what's going to happen in the next 10 years, the next decade, right? But marketing
yep,
said, we want to do an Iron Man movie and we think Robert Downey Jr. will work well as Tony Stark, right? And then you go
yep,
on the other side of the park and they just say, hey, let's just throw a bunch of bad guys together because marketing says that'll work. And marketing was 100% right. That movie worked well in marketing. People went to see that movie. It made money. They're going to make a sequel. Marketing made that movie,
yeah.
and nobody else could really do shit with it because it didn't matter by that point. Oh, hey, marketing says we need to add in X amount of this, and they do, and they made a shitty movie, but they made a lot of money. It's fascinating.
Well, I mean, actually, I write alternate history and science fiction and such. But honestly, there is an alternate history out there where the Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't work. I mean, even with the success of Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk sucked. Iron Man 2 sucked.
Yeah,
Thor was good, but it wasn't, riveting. Even the first Captain America movie, which is I thought was really, really good, didn't have the fan base that Iron Man did. I thought it was a good movie, but it didn't
oh
quite
man, looking
connect
back on it, when you're telling
with
me
the
this
fan.
story, I don't want to see any Marvel. Yuck, right? I mean, all those
Yeah.
movies were horrible.
Well,
Iron
if
Man
you
2
go
was
back a
horrible.
decade earlier,
I mean,
you
these
know,
were not
uh,
good
uh,
movies. How did this happen? The
the
first, the
Captain
five
America
times they
movie.
got on plate to face the pitcher after Iron Man, they failed.
Yes,
All phase
absolutely.
one
They
fail
failed.
except Iron Man.
Phase one did, in my opinion, it did mostly fail. I mean,
Yeah,
and I think you have a
except
lot
for
to
the
thank
Avengers,
for, except for yes, and that's
except for
what
the
redeemed
Avengers
it
and
right
Iron
there.
Man. Everything else
Because I mean,
sucked.
Captain America was a solid film, but it just didn't catch on. But
I didn't
Avengers
enjoy it
made
as
it all
much.
work, and
I didn't like Captain America. I didn't
yeah,
like the choice of Captain America. I didn't like the idea of what's his name, Johnny
the Human
Torch.
Torch,
Yeah, the Human
yeah, the
Torch
Human Torch playing
is
a
Captain
different,
America.
this, yeah,
The Incredible Hulk,
um,
it was fine. I liked it. I thought it was a great movie. I had no issues with it. Whatever the complaints were, I didn't notice them, and I still don't. I thought it was an interesting movie. I liked how they started it,
well,
but
again,
again, like I
the
said, I have
third
no clue
act
how
with
it ends. And that is like what
the
we talked about,
Mirage,
the mirror issues, the third act issues that all of these movies have. Great beginning concepts fall flat at the end. But it's
well,
how
most
they
movies
start that
do.
matters the most. And I even think in Captain America, the first Avenger, the reason that it works is it captures your imagination because they give you Steve
Mhm.
Rogers as a skinny little twig of a person who can't join the army to fight the Nazis. And then they give you Captain America, and the third act sucks.
Yeah,
You know what I
Chris
mean?
Evans. But all these actors, they really imbue the role. I mean, Chris
Yeah.
Evans, even though he was the Human Torch, and uh, uh, he really he is Captain America. Nobody else could play him now. I
Maybe
mean,
it's just
the
that third
same.
acts are hard, right? Endings are hard. I mean, can we
The third,
expect
well,
that
I mean,
this?
most movies fall apart in their third act.
Yeah,
I have to
most.
say, I went to see the the new Jurassic World movie,
Oh,
and not without getting spoilers. It's a great film that just kind of falls apart like all the other movies, in
yeah.
their third act.
I mean, ultimately, what are you
But
doing?
even
You're.
still,
I bet there's a big baddie. They've got to fight at the end, right? They've got to kill some big baddie, like they did in
yeah,
the first
yeah,
one.
it goes away from, the movies tend to fall away from the storyline to fighting the bad guy, and they lose sight of the storyline when they're doing that, and they
Humanity,
lose
right? I
sight of the
mean,
hero's journey.
what is it?
Well,
What is
that's
that? I mean,
why
that's what
Avengers
it's
3
negative. What
works
does
so
history
well.
say about that? I mean, history says something about
Yeah.
having your aim towards vengeance, right? Or aim towards taking somebody down, right? Like, what is it, hubris or
Uh,
something along those lines? I mean, what is it that says that you shouldn't aim for that? You shouldn't aim for the big battle at the end of the day. You should be aiming for something else, right? Maybe that's the problem. The third act shouldn't be about that big fight. The second act should be. And the
yep.
third act, I mean, let's go back to the hero's journey. The hero's journey doesn't
Mhm.
end with him beating the bad guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't, the quest is
It does
finished,
because
and that he doesn't say, okay, goodbye, I'm going to write another book now. There's a whole section where it
Mhm.
unwinds and he starts to
Exactly
reinsert himself in his
the
life.
journey
He's
back
to confront his
and
father after he beats the
mhm.
big baddie of the quest. He has to confront the biggest authority figure in his life and become an adult in the hero's journey.
Mhm.
I mean, when we look at Iron Man 2 and um, what's his face? Whoever the Steve, not Steve Rogers, who the hell is Iron Man? When he beats his
Oh,
his mirror guy at the end, which is fine,
yeah,
right? I mean, at the end of the day, all you do is fight yourself in every single thing that you
yes,
do. You're always fighting yourself. That's why golf is so compelling because you're your main competition. Doesn't matter what the other guy does. If you're having a great game, you'll win. If you're having a shitty game, it still doesn't matter what the other guy is. You're going to lose. So, I mean, it's you versus you. And at the end of the day, when you're fighting the bad guy and you win, you're really fighting yourself. You're fighting your own weaknesses. But how do you make that
exactly,
interesting? How do you make that interesting? Because he's a different
exactly.
person at the end, right? Once you've defeated yourself, once you've taken yourself down and destroyed who you are and killed yourself, what are you? You have to build yourself back up again. And maybe that's why these movies suck
Well,
at the end, is they don't give us an opportunity to see that build up.
that's why I think Black Panther worked so well because I mean he literally did kind of die and he did become a different person and the bad guy in that movie actually had some
Yeah,
very
and they
valid
confronted the
points.
heritage of their people, right? The ancestry,
Exactly,
the
but
way that things work
exactly,
confronted him. It was brilliant. Yeah, that's awesome. That
exactly,
was the hero's journey, wasn't it? He was called from the beginning. The prophecy
mhm,
was there. You need to answer this call. And he did all the way through that movie.
exactly.
That's brilliant. It's really good. That's a really good hero. No
And
wonder that
that's
movie did well.
one of the examples where that mirror match does actually work. But like the
Wonder,
mirror match in Iron
yeah,
Man 2 doesn't
yeah.
work at all because Tony starts not learning anything about himself by defeating this guy. Tony starts not doing anything with this, and he's way overpowered. I mean, there is no underdog at all. I mean, there's no difficulty. I mean, you basically went to boom, they were done. I mean, there is no catharsis at all for the third act of Iron Man too. Uh, and so I mean I think and then you go back to the third act of Avengers Infinity War. There is catharsis. It's the wrong type of catharsis for the audience and for the bad guys slash good guys, the superheroes. But there is an emotional journey. There is a reason for the third act, and it does touch back on to the themes. It's not just a big climatic fight. They're really they're understanding why they can't be they're understanding why it didn't work for them to be at odds with themselves and each other.
I
It's too
mean,
late.
yeah. I mean, it's very interesting because Thanos is not a bad guy any
No,
more
of course
so
not.
than
No,
a
it's
Thor,
in the
because
universe.
Thor invades planets as well. Odin invaded planets. I mean, Helios invaded
Yes,
planets. I mean, people died because of these people's decisions.
exactly.
You turn the perspective slightly, and they're just as bad as everybody else. I mean, just look at Vietnam as a comparison. You know what I mean? We wanted to end communism to help the Vietnamese people. The Vietnamese people hated us because we wanted to do that for them. You know what I mean? Whatever
Yeah,
side you were on at that particular point, one side thought they were good, the other side thought they were good, and they killed each other.
exactly, exactly. No, it only works. Conflict only works if both sides are passionate about their what they're fighting for, what they're the reason for. I like the line that said that
Well,
I
also
think it was
works
Doctor
also if
Strange.
you can get behind what they're fighting for too, and you can see both sides of it,
Yes,
right? I mean, if you're like, oh,
exactly.
dude, okay, well, people,
Yeah,
it is overcrowded. The universe is dangerous because it's overcrowded. People do kill each other because it's overcrowded. Maybe you're right. Maybe if we just had
Hmm.
half less people, you maniacal moron.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, I understand where you're coming from. It's completely wrong-headed, but it's not completely
It's
bad.
completely wrong. Exactly.
I mean, you're going to murder half the
But
universe, but they're going to murder themselves anyway. So, I mean, where at the end of the day, it was the right decision coming. Do you want to let them kill themselves or just go ahead and erase
exactly,
them?
they're all going to die anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody's
Thanos
going to
had
die.
his whole planet
Let's just be
completely
comfortable
destroyed.
now. We'll just be more comfortable now. We'll get rid of half of everybody they're going to die anyway.
Yeah, just get
So
rid
they're
of,
gone. They're dead
yeah,
now.
get rid of that. Half. There are times when you're stuck in traffic on the freeway that you're like, yeah,
I'm
just
not
half.
stuck in traffic anymore. Maybe
Yeah,
Bob wasn't worth it. Bob's sacrifice was worth it. I don't have to be stuck there.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's not my sacrifice, or
Bob
anybody
didn't even
in
feel
my
anything at the end
circle.
of the day, right? Bob just disappeared. Bob just took a really long nap. He's
Yeah,
still sleeping. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
exactly,
Man,
exactly.
so this has
So,
turned out to be a fantastic discussion. I'm really happy that I invited you on. It's been over 2 hours or a little under 2 hours at this particular point in
oh
time.
my god,
So I mean, this has been
wow,
fantastic. So I want to do it again. We'll continue to do it potentially on other subjects as well. I like it. I think this worked out very well. Um, but have you seen? You
I
haven't
had
seen Ant-Man
no
yet. It
idea
comes
we
out
talked
this
for 2.
weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's coming. It comes out on what, on the third, and I'm sure people are. You see it on the second, bands, midnight
It's
showings
gonna
and all
kill,
that.
man.
But
It's gonna make
I'll
over a
probably see
billion
it the
dollars
weekend.
too. People are hungry for it right now.
You know, I'll say 750. I'll
Seven
be a little bit
fifty.
more conservative. I think 750. I think
How
that's
much did
a little
Ragnarok
bit more
rate?
conservative.
Ragnarok did not
You
make
know
over
what?
a
That's a good
billion.
question. No, it didn't make over a billion, but that's a
Yeah,
good movie to compare it to.
yeah.
That was a
I think it'll do on par
lighthearted.
with that. I want to actually see
Yeah,
how much Ragnarok made because I think that's what it'll be. I don't think it'll be a Black Panther necessarily. Black Panther had a deeper theme running through it that resonated with our society, and I
yeah,
don't think that
exactly. Yeah.
Ant-Man's going to come close to that.
Yeah. Well, Paul Rudd is no Wakanda forever. Uh, nothing against Paul Rudd, but doesn't quite have that same zeitgeist changing or compelling pull there.
So 854 million is what Ragnarok made going into
Wow.
854.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this movie has a lot of power built up behind it. So I don't know, man. It might make over $1 billion, depending how good it is. If Paul Rudd can make people laugh and enjoy it, then it'll make over a billion. If it's barely
Well, I'm
hitting,
I'm seeing it for Evangeline Lilly. I mean, Paul Rudd is funny, but Evangeline Lilly is she needs her moment to shine, and I'm really happy that they're kind of putting a female fronted.
yeah, they are doing that,
Uh,
aren't they? Unfortunately, it's Ant-Man and Wasp, so it's kind of like, oh, hey guys, this is our answer to Wonder Man or Wonder Woman. So how come it's not
yeah,
Wasp?
I
It's
mean,
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's gonna get Scott Lilly, but I really think he's gonna steal the thunder. Because she was horribly used in the Hobbit movies. I mean, she was great in them, but she had nothing.
She had nothing to
Never mind.
do.
We
Hobbit
could do a
movies were
whole show
horrible. They
on
were
that.
really bad. They were
Yeah,
really bad,
yeah.
unfortunately. I wanted them to be good. So fine. Give me a 9 hour
I,
epic based on The Hobbit. I'm totally for it. Oh, they're gonna suck?
yeah,
Oh God.
sure. Yeah.
Why? I mean,
Oh
that was a
man,
movie that
that
should
was
have made lots of money and been a freaking. I mean, come on, Jackson. So that was dead in the water based on like
but
politics or something, I think.
no,
I
it
mean,
was passion. I mean, the passion that he had kind of evaporated. He just didn't have the same drive for that movie. He's like, oh, here we go again. You got to have, Patty Jenkins or Christopher Nolan or um,
somebody hungry, right? He
the
was
Russo
hungry.
brothers.
He was hungry, wasn't
What's that?
he?
Yeah,
When he made Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson was nothing. He was like he did
he was nothing.
Frighteners and a bunch of other small little horror
Mhm.
movies.
Which
He never really popped. He wasn't really popular
yeah,
until he
he did
the
that exactly. He was hungry for it. That's a good way of putting it.
because
You
if
need
you I mean
directors who
going
are
back
hungry.
to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you could see it here too. When Iron Man came out, Jon Favreau was hungry, right? He wasn't
Yes,
really popping
yes,
movies like he is now. Now he makes $100 million movies all the time, tentpole movies or whatever you want to call them.
Exactly.
But he wasn't done,
Exactly.
and that really established him. He was hungry. Joss Whedon wasn't hungry, and I think it shows up in the Avengers. Avengers is a great comic book, coloring book fair. You could see the outlines of what was already there based on stuff that had pre-existed, and he came along and just filled it in with his crayons, and he got fired.
I would argue, I'd argue that for the first Avengers movie, he was hungry. He kind of wanted to prove himself that he's not just known for just the Buffy, Firefly type of stuff. I think there was some hunger there, but on the second movie, I think there's just so much fighting and infighting and politics going on, and stuff that they're and again it just kind of evaporated, and you saw it. You saw it through
And we both agree
end
that the
result.
second installment of the Avengers was not very good. Unfortunately, I mean, not very. I mean, it's what it is, right? It's a good movie, but it doesn't
It's
really.
watchable.
It's watchable.
Yeah, it doesn't add to the mythos. It doesn't really dive into the
The
characters.
concept is
It's very
fascinating. I don't know
heavy.
who Ultron is at the end of the day. I don't know that character from the comic books, but I like the idea of an artificial intelligence, right? I write that stuff. I'm writing a story about that right now. I've written that thing into novels before. I love
Oh
artificial
yeah.
intelligence. I love artificial intelligence as a bad guy that can
Hmm.
float between machines. I mean, what a genius idea. How scary, right? But
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what
Absolutely.
that
But
movie was about.
they didn't really explore that point. I mean, he was just this big robot. If they wanted to make it AI, it could have been a lot more. It could have been a lot deeper. But it was
Could have been a lot
very
deeper, right?
Ultron
My
is
story that I
was
just
very
finished
shallow.
a novella today where I have an AI who has no limitations as far as what system it can be in, right? It could do basically or be anywhere or fix, it's code. It doesn't have any physicality. It could float between
Yeah,
internet connections. I mean, there's just so much horror that you can put into
exactly.
that I don't think they fully realized. Maybe you could be locked out of a system, but
Well,
the
that's
entire
why I
world is in
think
jeopardy.
okay.
I don't know. Maybe they did that.
My
Maybe they
big
had that in the
problem.
movie and I just didn't realize it.
No, no, I mean a little bit because he was in the code to launch the nukes, and their Jarvis is trying to. So they had a little bit of that, and I get that. But what would have been really interesting was Ultron hacking the Iron Man suits would have been really cool,
Yeah.
and then you
Why
could have
couldn't he
had
do that?
some growth with Hulk.
I mean, you're talking
I
about.
mean, why
I mean,
couldn't?
I would think you'd be talking about his blood, right? I mean, his basically his body is whatever
Yeah,
code he can
yeah,
interact with. I mean, if it can be hacked, he can hack
exactly,
it, slip through the cracks, and
exactly. I
that's
know
his environment.
they went MacGuffin said, "Oh no, he can't hack the Iron Man suits because of whatever MacGuffin reason." But it would have been so much cooler is if Ultron had taken a hold of the Hulkbuster, and Iron Man can't go out and fight the Hulkbuster because his own suit is turning against him. So the Hulk has to go fight. He has to be the hero and go fight the Hulkbuster suit. And that would have been a lot more compelling because then Iron Man, I mean the Ultron is really their own worst enemy because he's their own technology they're using against them
Yeah.
themselves. Instead, he was just a giant robot that they had to go hit really hard with the fist.
People don't do
It
that
just
though.
didn't make
Unfortunately,
sense.
I don't understand why with the Marvel movies people don't do that. I mean, they seem to just like, here's my money. I want to see another one. Keep making them. That's good. But Solo comes
Yeah,
out, right? It's not a horrible movie,
yeah.
but it's not a great movie either.
I
But
haven't
people
seen
hate it.
Solo.
Oh, you didn't see it?
Yeah, I have not seen Solo.
I do not
I was
understand
so
that.
turned off by I was
Oh,
so
really?
turned off by the Last Jedi that I really just kind of Star Wars burned out for a while. I just need
Freaking interesting
I
to me. So
Star
you're one of those dudes. I don't understand because I'm like, give me Star Wars like you're giving people Marvel. Give it
yeah
to me. I don't care. Give
yeah
me all of it. I want stories about the janitor on the Death Star, working his last shift up until his body obliterates into atoms. I want that story. I want every single
well
story in the Star Wars universe like you're
about
doing for Marvel.
300 books that you
Yeah, but
can read that tell you
oh, are
everything
you
about
one
it.
of the extended universe fans? Like, got real upset that got
I I
erased?
I am I am because I mean that's you said that you're reading books when you were a kid. If I wasn't reading comic books, I was reading Harry Turtledove, which we talked about last time we talked.
Oh my God,
But
dude,
the Star Wars expanded universe.
I had him almost on the podcast. Almost.
Oh
Almost on the
no!
podcast. Almost.
Oh,
I sent him an email saying, "Hey, I really like you being on the podcast," and he sent me back an email saying, "I'd like more information," and I sent him more information. And he's been retweeting my stuff and like commenting on things, but he has not responded back to me
yeah.
with more information. I'm going to leave it alone for right now, but I'm going to circle.
Oh,
I'm hoping to circle back around and get him on. I'd love to have a conversation with him because he's one of the few remaining kind of
yeah.
classic masters alive right now. I think there's a lot of
Exactly. And
those
he
dudes
has
left.
a new book coming out soon. So you might be able to get him on to, talk about his new book.
Maybe that
So
would be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
I would love to have him on. I've
yeah.
had some pretty interesting people on lately. Really enjoyed
You
this
have. I've
platform.
seen. Yeah, it's really you're just. I mean, I am just blown away by some. And then you have me on, and I go, what am I doing here? I'm not these people.
I love it,
But you
man,
had
because
some
you're the
really
same as them.
really awesome
Everybody that
talent.
I talk to can be those people, depending how hard you want to work. Your imagination and your efforts. I
Absolutely.
mean, really, anybody could do that if you know how to do it. And you've already done the hardest part, which is writing a novel and just going from there. I mean, the
It
hardest
takes.
part is deciding that this is the way I want to live my life. When I
It's
have,
true. At some point in time, you have to commit to it and say, this is what I want to do, and then that is your goal. That is what you do.
yep, you just have to fill in the parts and the pieces that kind of make that happen. How do you become a writer? You write. What do you write? You write what is honest to you, and what's honest to you is what's interesting, right? I mean, we're all humans. It's the achievement. And I mean, I just love how you want to be a doctor, you go to medical school, you work your ass off, you do 24-hour shifts. I mean, and then you make money.
Mhm,
I mean, that's how it works. You're not making money when you do
mhm.
24-hour shifts. You're not making money when you're working your ass off and sweating and dying
Yeah,
and just having to memorize everything under the sun. You're not making shit, but you're still working hard. So even if you're
exactly.
not making anything, work your ass off and pay attention to what people are doing and have conversations, right? I mean, that's how you do it. You figure out how to work hard in the right, smart directions. And people like
Well,
you
you gotta
are the best people to talk to because you're
gotta
doing it too.
talk to people.
Hmm?
You gotta get out there and just like what you did. You emailed Harry Turlove, and obviously it's worked. I mean, you had the guy who wrote The Expanse on, a few weeks ago.
Part of it.
I mean,
The other guy
yeah,
doesn't have a
yeah,
Twitter account. I would have invited him too, but the other guy is completely off
uh,
social media, I think. But Daniel Abrams was
yeah,
freaking fantastic, dude. He was like, "Yeah, I'll be your
yeah,
podcast." I was like, "Huh?"
that's amazing.
I
Yeah,
wrote him an email, like trying to talk him out of it. It's like, you shouldn't be on my podcast because you're curating and blah blah blah. But no, I deleted that email and took his
uh,
ass and talked to him
like,
for a
yeah,
good.
but you got to put yourself out there. A good friend of mine is going to have his book made into a movie, and it's because he put himself out there. He's doing the hard work. He's working really hard, but he's also trying to just talk to everybody, and make yourself marketable, make yourself uh, being able to succinctly talk about your work and to make it appealing when you
Yeah,
talk about your work. It's
yeah.
so
Succinctly
so
talk
very
about
important.
your work is important, man, and it's that elevator spiel that
Very,
everybody talks about. But at the end of the day, I'm
yeah,
thinking to myself as I'm walking my dog, going, "What the hell is my novel about?" Like if some dumbass came up
yeah.
to me at a party and said, "Hey, what's your novel about, man?" I was thinking my first
Mm-hmm.
statement to him would be, "Oh, it's complicated," and that's bullshit. It can't be complicated. It's got to be
Can't
compelling and
complicated.
quick.
That's not how it's gonna work. You got to be able to, yeah, yeah,
It's not complicated.
exactly.
It's
You got
about
to be
what's it
able
about? What's the human thing that's
to
happening
make
here?
it. What is a human thing? How can you relate to it? What works about it? How can you see that? Out of its very essence, the first Ant-Man is a heist movie with some comedic value. You can understand that. You get that. The Avengers 4 is the hero's journey, but the hero is the bad guy.
It's
You
awesome.
can immediately you understand.